Let's see.
But Obasanjo seemed to have been there forever, or is it just we hear the name so often we think he was president for a long
Or
time?
You
Olusegun
think he was?
Obasanjo.
You think he was around for longer
How
than
long
he was?
was his tenure?
He served for. He did 2 terms, and then it was. Of course, he lost in the next election, and then came back and won in another election. So he served as Nigeria's president for 12 years in totality. But of course, he's always been around. And then, of course, now he's the grandfather of African cohesion politics.
Oh, God, he's the man to talk to. You want anything. So do you think Raila at 75, therefore he still has time? And I think then it also says that probably this is a prime ripe age of becoming a president. Too young, you are too erratic. You make too many mistakes. You don't have the requisite wisdom to hold a country together and to move it ahead. How old was President Moi when he took power?
He was not anywhere close to 70.
No, he wasn't. Neither was he in his 40s, though.
No, 50s.
Yeah, or 50s.
It was more or less, I think, early 60s or late. No, probably late 50s. I'm not sure, but we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Yes.
This man was in the Ledge Corps before independence. Therefore, when all these young Turks were coming into government, the ones we're talking about, the 29s and the 32-year-olds, he was among the older ones with Njonjo.
Yes. Njonjo was older than
Moi.
Yes, he was.
Actually, Njonjo is like 2 or 3 years older than Moi.
Njonjo is 100 now, I think.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Moi is turning, what, 90?
No, Njonjo should be
Njonjo is
96, 7 there.
Moi.
Moi, sorry.
So this is now about 4 years.
Yes.
A 4-year age gap. There you go. So it's so if Njonjo was 42, right?
Yes.
He was 42 at independence.
Yes.
And 78 minus 63.
That's 13.
So 42 plus 13.
That's 53.
It's
53 minus 4.
That's 49.
There you go. So Moi was around 49.
You realize that Titi is just throwing numbers at you.
Oh, no.
No.
I'm actually correct.
Yeah, he's doing his math. So
you know,
Moi,
I belong to that age set where people used to do mental sums.
mental sums, eh?
None of this using a computer. 1 plus 1. Then you've pressed
Oh,
equals.
you guys were using calculus.
No?
Counting beads and moving beads.
Mental sums.
Okay. So yeah, that's what the story is saying, that Raila could actually still be having a good time to become president. Then also we know that the rally that they're talking about, 2 rallies, one in Kisii today. It's been called a rally on one hand, it's also been called a BBI, Consultative Forum on the other.
It's all those things.
It's one in the name of the other.
In short, in Kiswahili, just a sentence. Everything fits in there.
Kila kitu.
Yes,
Whatever we want it to be.
Whatever you think would be suitable, and you're here.
So the counties from Nyanza are taking over 1,000 people to the Gusii Stadium today to discuss the BBI. What are they going to discuss the BBI? What is it that
Public participation.
Yeah, but under what structure? So we don't have the BBI task force here to come and listen to what you guys are saying. So when they talk, who is going to be taking notes?
I'm sure they're there.
Yeah, but who?
As in who?
The Paul
the
Mwangi
individual.
team? Is it the Wazairs of the BBI? Is it the new task force that has been formed? Who's going to be there? And if it's not formal, then how does it get to the formal side of things? Here's what I'm wondering. I mean,
Remember
we're talking about BBI being politicized, and here is Raila Odinga right off the blocks politicizing BBI.
It has to be politicized, actually, at some point. Because if you are talking about adhering to the Constitution in a setting such as ours, you probably need to hold meetings or a rally, because a rally is just a big meeting.
True.
Now, it could be informative. You're talking to a large group of people about what you intend to do. So instead of, it saves you the bother and time of going to 47 counties and in one fell swoop, because if you look at the requirements of public participation, this is one of them being met. It cannot be said that you have spoken to the entire country, but it cannot be said you have not sought to no, just inform them even. It cannot be said, because once you have such a big rally and it's spoken about, it'll be aired on radio, it'll be aired on TV. People will get to hear about it. Now, what they're going to do after that, I don't know. I wait to see. They haven't furnished us with a timetable of where they want to go and how they want to go and what they're going to do. but this is a good start. Making it
No,
public.
My first reaction to this when I heard that they were organizing this kind of meetings is I think they are jumping the gun.
No.
Formalize the new task force, then let the new task force come up with the plan. This is how we'd like you guys to do it. So hold regional meetings, discuss, and this is how we're going to do it. Let the task force be the one that moderates the conversations, so that they are also the ones that are the rapporteurs of whatever you're discussing. Now, 6 governors have mobilized 1,000 people to come to one stadium, and then they discuss BBI as a political party, stand on it. So it's going to be skewed to what the political party leadership is actually saying. This is the kind of conversation we want to have on this BBI. Then how do you take that information and merge it with what other people from other regions or other counties are going to be discussing? What's the end game? It's jumping the gun, if you ask me. And I think this is the whole idea of pushing to have a referendum by June and starting it off. I'm not quite getting it.
This is one cat that you can skin in many ways. What you're suggesting is clearly one way. But from a political perspective, because at the end of the day, politics will come in. So why not start with the politics?
Start with it so you can get it out of the way,
Just
essentially.
start with it, get out of the way.
Yeah.
It'll not get out of the way. Once politics starts, that's the one that's going to be holding the torch.
The truth of the matter is that politics entered this thing from the very beginning.
Of course, it's a political thing.
Yes.
It's only, what I'm saying is, now when you bring it to this level where it's political leaders who are sort of like spearheading the conversation, then we have moved away from what the Raila and the president were doing in the first
Political
place.
leaders.
They said, let's bring in was yes, there are politicians there, there are religious leaders, there are members of the civil society, there are women leaders, and that's how the task force was formed initially. The 14-member task force. It wasn't leaders of political parties. It was people who are respected in the society. When you talk about Yusuf Haji, when you talk about Amos Wako, when you talk about the bishops, Matthew and the rest, this is people who we are saying these are the eminent personalities in our society. Let's put them together. Let them hear the people. Now, taking it over with politics, I am not liking this route.
Each of the 6 Nyanza from Nyanza counties are sending 300 delegates each. Okay? Now that alone can be argued to be representative of those 6 counties. So in one fell swoop, okay, 6 counties have
discussed BBI.
No, have participated.
Have participated.
Yes. Attendance is participation. Okay? Now dialogue is also participation. Now, whether all these people, because if you multiply 6 by 300, that is 1,800 people. How you're going to have dialogue with 1,800 people is interesting, but it's been done. We've actually seen meetings taking place at Kasarani.
Yeah.
And a few handpicked people are allowed to speak, and then all those in favor say, yes, those who are not in favor, keep quiet. Yes.
Acclamation takes
Yes.
the day.
Now, I cannot even claim to understand what the end game is, and so I wait to see.
Let's wait and see.
I wait to see.
It's going to be a big one.
Yes.
This one. So this in Kisii today, in Kakamega on Saturday.
Yep.
All right. Other headlines?
Well, of course, there's a lot still going on in the country, and one thing, I guess, is this whole tiresome locust issue. And yesterday, I think the most recent thing that has come out now is that residents are being asked to make a meal of the locusts, literally, as one option. So, of course, the question comes out, like, how many will you eat to be able to put a dent in the population? And it's been said that this infestation, as it were, is actually likely to spread around the country. So if in the 3 counties that we see this right now, if West Pokot, Wajir, and Garissa, where we see it happening, and Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa, seeing it happening now, and there's likelihood that it's going to spread around the country because they're in breeding season and they'll breed where they can breed. Perhaps the spray and the making a meal of it is not enough. And yes, here we are at a place where we've been told it will spread to the rest of the country. It's possible that this will happen. What is being done to mitigate that now, of course, is the question. Can we keep it isolated to 3 counties? Is it going to go through to another 20? We don't know, but we've been told that there's a possibility. I believe Isipe was called in for a press conference yesterday to give the word on this, and this is what they said, that yes, the likelihood of it spreading is quite high, and we've already given our our recommendations, and we've told what should actually happen. We are here to help. Basically, it is my hope and wish and prayer that they actually take on the help of ECPay now and say, look, let's try and stop this from getting as deep and as far as it promises to go.
Those entomologists were saying some interesting stuff, like even saying that aerial spraying may not be the solution.
Right.
You need to actually spray on the ground.
On the ground.
And
exactly.
find out where, so that you're closer to the eggs. And then
because they will not lay on stalk. They'll lay where it's warmer.
Where it's, yes. And then they're also saying, eat these things. So this is a very big opportunity. If you actually send people there to go and harvest them and find ways of transporting and taking them around the country. I sent you a clip of somewhere in the Arabian world where these things are actually being sold in a market.
Yes, exactly.
In nets.
As
you
protein,
have, 5 kilos of locusts, 10 kilos of locusts, and come and buy.
Well,
something to consider, but then here we are. This is Kenya. We don't consider things.
We talk at the problem.
We're like, yeah, these things can be eaten. Yeah. In fact, can you imagine if we could eat them? Then we don't eat them.
Right. Speaking about health issues, NHIF rules to hit voluntary members, the new rules, and NHIF comes out with a bang, joining the foray of institutions now who are looking for this elusive shilling. Funds says the move will boost the attainment of UHC and enhance member retention. The National Hospital Insurance Fund has made a raft of changes in the scheme that will punish defaulters. The changes, which took effect on the 1st of January, will affect the voluntary members who pay 500 shillings monthly. So there are quite a number of things that will happen to this, but just briefly at the changes, because we're going to discuss this later. Voluntary members will have to wait 6 months after registration to access maternity services. They will also have to wait 90 days, up from the current 60, to enjoy the benefits. Those joining will make a 12-month upfront payment. They can include only one spouse and 5 children as dependents. Members who default for a year or more have to start paying afresh and can enjoy benefits only after 90 days.
This is going to be a tough one.
They've come up with guns blazing now. There are very many.
It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem that many of these organizations have is in their communication. If you come out saying, we're increasing, then your communication is going to be, you want more money from me. If you come out with other benefits and show, the benefit of actually doing this, and therefore for us to meet this, we'd like you to do this and the other.
This and this. While making sure, of course, that our services are up to par and making sure that we're doing everything that you need.
Because telling someone, you want to get into NHIF today, pay 6,000.
Pay 6,000, wait for 90 days.
3 months.
Before you access the services. So you've paid that money. Like I said, we're going to discuss it later, but you've paid that money. And in the event that somebody gets sick within that period, you cannot use the NHIF service.
It's crazy because you see what was happening actually. One of the things that was encouraging people to get onto NHIF is, one, there is a lot of public awareness being spread. And then there's a time when you actually need the services of NHIF. And someone tells you, I wish you had NHIF. What do I need to do? If you pay for the year, you get to access the services immediately. And you're right now in hospital. So someone sees it's better for me to pay these 6,000 shillings. I get into NHIF, I'm covered, and it sorts me out. And then from that point on, they'll keep paying and renewing. Now, telling people 6,000 upfront, it's introducing barriers. You cannot be introducing barriers to people at this point.
For a service.
For a service.
Even when I'm listening to this, I'm wondering what it is that's happening. Because they began this service and it requires some very serious cash input.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, all NHIF did mostly was pay for your hospital bed. So they collected a lot of money.
They did. And there was a huge scandal at the fund, remember? Yes.
Whether it went left or right or south or north, that sort of thing. Something seems to have gone south or north or west again. Because when someone has such restrictions, it's like they're saying we're going to just be collecting money for these months and providing no service.
But that's exactly what it is.
Or we're cash strapped.
Yeah.
Yes.
The kind of people that we
this
have.
elusive shilling is bringing, and like I said, we're going to see a lot more institutions do things like this in the coming months. Because we're getting to that time.
More and more people are paying 500 bob and accessing services.
Yes.
That are worth more than 500. And now we are running out of cash.
They shouldn't have run out of cash because when you know the membership, I think this is where actuarism comes in. Because people who've studied actuarial sciences would have been able to crunch the numbers and actually give them a fairly accurate way forward on how the numbers will work out with that sort of payment. And that's why they pegged it to 500. Remember, it wasn't 500 before. It was 200. They pushed it to 500. And then for many people in public service, it was now mandatory. Really, everybody was paying. Other parastatals probably took some of the most superior services where you pay even more, like 1,000, 1,500, that sort of thing. Now, where the problem arises is now, as you say, when you expand it to the population who are most likely to actually seek care because their lives and the way they live it, should we say, exposes them to the likelihood of being affected by diseases a lot more. The places they live in, the water they use, that sort of thing. Now, this should have been worked out because they would have known the numbers. Somewhere, somehow, it appears there's some mismanagement that is rearing its head. Because these things that we're hearing of are draconian.
I mean,
And too drastic.
This is it's meant for health provision.
at best.
Why on earth? I mean, it's like you're punishing someone. You have a service and yet you don't.
You've paid for it.
But
But
it
you can't
doesn't stop
access it.
there. If you delay this will happen. Everything about it is punitive.
It's punitive from the
Yes.
get-go.
Yes.
The new rules to hit voluntary members, it's punitive.
It's-
and this is a service that you're supposed to be providing
It's
to people.
hard.
It's
We'll
just-
discuss
it's
this in
a tough
detail,
one.
of course, in the next hour.
For sure.
Then let's look at this other headlines, of course, in the papers today. What's the headline on The Nation?
MCAs throw Sonko under the bus. It's a big one, right? Okay, so we talked about this yesterday in detail, in a little bit before we wanted to hear what would happen at the end of the day. Ward reps have invited the national government to take over affairs at City Hall. Leaders drop plans to form an ad hoc committee to oversee the running of the capital in the absence of embattled governor who has been barred from his office over corruption allegations. It's what is being called the Nairobi Regeneration Committee. County legislators are now pushing for the revival of the Nairobi Regeneration Committee, which was formed in 2018 by President Uhuru Kenyatta to oversee the delivery of key services in the city. It comprises of national and county government leaders. The ward reps say the committee will work alongside members of the county executive committee. And it has been clear in what they discussed yesterday that obviously with the way in which things stand, Nairobi is spiraling out of control. And they basically wanted to get some control back. They yesterday unanimously resolved to have the national government revamp the committee to take over the running of the city while Sonko is barred from office. And they also said the committee will work alongside members of the Nairobi County Executive to ensure effective service delivery to Nairobi residents. So it seems that this is what is taking center stage. Nairobi,
Translate into
the
one
city.
line.
Nairobi, the city.
Najib Balala is the acting governor of Nairobi County.
Right, let's put it that way.
Let's just break it down. Nairobi Regeneration.
How come?
He's the head.
He's the head of this committee.
Nairobi Regeneration
Committee, which
Right.
was instituted by President
So
Kenyatta in 2018.
Najib Balala basically becomes the acting governor of Nairobi because he's the chair of the committee, and if the chair of the committee, just like Sonko was the chair of the Nairobi County Executive Committee. So this is it.
It's interesting also because there are certain things that were then put into effect. According to Speaker Beatrice Ilachi, she said, I direct that the committee is revamped due to the good work it has done in order to proceed with its work together with county executive to ensure effective service delivery to Nairobi residents. She called on the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company to provide water rationing schedules to Nairobi residents and the executive to partner with the Kenya Urban Roads Authority in tarmacking and maintenance of county roads. On pending bills, she called on the executive to ensure the bills are cleared, particularly for the youth, women and persons with disability, as well as develop a solid waste management program. So, you know what, on the face of it all, definitely looks like what they're concerned about is the running of the city and the proper administration of, city regulations and such, development regulations and things like this. At the end of the day, it's glaring that they're saying, look, he's not been able to handle it for the time that he's been there. Now that he's out, we need somebody who's going to come in and take control. And not just us, but we're bringing in the executive. And we're saying on a national level, this is the kind of help that we need.
So basically, you remember there was a route of saying let Nairobi be run by the national government.
Yeah.
This is it. Nairobi is now to be run by the national government, and Najib Balala will be the governor of Nairobi.
Essentially.
What is of interest is the Pandora's box that this has opened. Because if this can happen to Nairobi, it means it can happen to some other governor.
Yep.
If the national government steps in, then it means that you may still be governor by name because you need a process of impeachment that is ratified by Senate for you to actually stop being governor.
Yep.
But it means that the business of that particular county can be managed by other people other than yourself.
Actually, the Constitution allows that. When it allows for the dissolution of a county government for various factors. So, like what Kivuta Kibwana had hoped for. If you dissolve the county government, then it's run by the national government for a period of time, a certain period of time. You can create other, schemes where the government is not functioning, and because there's no provision for going into an election, then you have a way in which the national government comes and runs the affairs of the county government for a while. Now that while...
It's actually a good reminder that they're always in charge, that the powers you have are actually delegated to you, and that it can be taken back.
Big Brother is always watching, as it were. Not going to let you run
national
around and do whatever
bigger.
you like. Of course.
National is not Big Brother. National is Daddy.
It's Daddy.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Magoha now relaxes NEMIS requirement rule to schools. We talked about this in December and we said, okay, look, this NEMIS thing is what was ruling the day in terms of selection. But Magoha has now said all the 10 million learners in the country will receive government capitation this year, regardless of whether their details are captured in the National Education Management Information System, otherwise known as NEMIS. He said that school heads are now required to do a manual count of their pupils and students and present the data to the Ministry of Education to facilitate the disbursement of funds to the institution. So now it's not by system, it's by word of mouth. This is what is needed, and that is what will happen. So the system apparently has seen to be appears not to be working in this light. And so the disbursement of funds will come by word of mouth. Again, another opportunity for Pandora's box to be opened here. And it's
so the cartels have won.
At the end of the day.
This is just pure and simple.
I told you this
Actually,
this one.
This story has just begun. Remember, there are these sayings that we have about cats that are cornered and how dangerous they are. One thing that you cannot be said about the governor of Nairobi is that he's a passive individual. Not really. And it can also not be said that he's someone who lacks the ability to have a comeback. This is the beginning. It's just a new saga, but it's a beginning. This is not the end. You do know this is a talk show and you're allowed differing opinions.
I'm actually in agreement with you because in December
saying, it's not the end. Agree
no,
with
when you go at the end of the statement, I'm figuring, okay, you don't agree, okay.
But you need to understand where I'm from, that can mean 10 different things. So now in this case, it's not the end. You got it, Eric.
Because agreement.
Because we talked about it before and I said, you know what? System or no system, they're going to find their way around this thing. And here we are. Less than a month later. And Magoha himself has said, okay, system, let's push the system aside a little bit. You just tell me now what it is that you need.
About education.
And it is going back, the power is going back into the hands of the school heads. So many school heads will be seen, trust me.
Oh, yes.
And if this can be done for the disbursement of funds, how much more for the placement of students?
You ngoja. You wait and see. As we take a look at the traffic shortly. So, today marks the first anniversary of Twalib Mbarak as the Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. He has written a piece on the Standard, on page 16 of the Standard, and he says many Kenyans are of the opinion that nothing much has been done in the fight against corruption. Moreover, the corruption in the country is perceived globally as one of the most corrupt. These concerns are genuine, and there is more that must be done for Kenya to slay the corruption dragon. As for now, we appear to be fighting the symptoms of corruption rather than the causes. And his article is actually titled, Address the Real Causes of Graft, Not Symptoms. He breaks down corruption into three. He says we have three types of corruption in Kenya. One is grand corruption, where serious amounts of money are actually stolen by people who are well connected and wealthy. The second is petty corruption, and petty corruption is more directly felt by citizens. For instance, when one gets harassed by the traffic police or delays in issuance of relevant government services. This grand corruption is that one that is direct but lethal. And then the third type of corruption is what he's calling political corruption. This is the most lethal and fuels grand and petty corruption. We are talking about political corruption. It's a foundation of corruption in any country. It is said that many citizens globally do not trust their governments. Unfortunately, the root cause of political corruption is the public. So he's saying political corruption is not by politicians.
It's
the
the
root
people.
cause of political corruption is the public.
Right.
He's saying let's address the real causes of corruption, not just the symptoms, not taking people to court alone. Go back to the basics. It's 27 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif. We are discussing the newspapers and what's been covered locally and globally. Good morning.
Traffic.
Right, folks, let's see what's happening this Friday morning. The bumps are back on Bagavi Way, so of course you want to ask yourself, why were they removed in the first place? But that was happening as of yesterday, so of course it's going to affect traffic, whichever way you look at it, in and outbound. Thika Road traffic is slow but moving this morning already. Heavy traffic on Mombasa Road, pre-Mlolongo, and that's inbound. And we see it definitely being all the way down to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. What do we expect on Thika Road? Definitely coming out of the Mwiki Kasarani area, that's going to be chock-a-blocked today. We have some light showers in that area already. The road is terrible, and so that means that it's going to take a while to get off Thika Road today. Of course, then around the Allsops area, it's not so bad as you go past the Utali area and then down towards the Pangani underpass, getting into the city centre. It's all right for now. Coming off of Ngong Road and Langata Road, we don't see much happening, but coming off Waiyaki Way is smooth all the way to the University of Nairobi roundabout, so it's not so bad right now. Likely to change in a short while, but we give you updates as we go along. Send us a tweet or give us a call, 0719 012 600. Let us know what's going on this morning.
.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
There's that unfortunate story of a teacher who was killed, lynched by the public. Where is it? It's on the papers today, right?
It is in the papers. The parents from hell lynched teacher over poor results, and this is quite tragic. The Teachers Service Commission yesterday withdrew services of 6 of its employees in Doni Primary School in Kitui County following the bizarre killing of a female teacher. The move came barely hours after detectives investigating the killing were allowed to detain 2 suspects for 21 days. It said that Daisy Mbave Mbaluka was ambushed by an irate mob in broad daylight as she took her children to school. The mob, which was led by some parents, is alleged to have perpetrated the crime over the school's poor performance in last year's KCPE exams, I beg your pardon. And this is quite unfortunate because then she was waylaid as she was taking her kids to school and they killed her. And this is the reason that they give. The school performed poorly.
Who gave the reason?
The parents. The
irate mob.
The irate mob. The irate mob who lynched her basically said, this is the reason why we are killing this woman. And it is quite unfortunate that this
Does
is
it
the
make sense to
option. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
At all.
Whatsoever. And that
What
they
school was
selected
she taking
her.
her child to?
Children.
She was taking her children
To the same school where she teaches or to a different school?
It doesn't say.
No, it doesn't say which school she was taking them to. It just says which school she taught at. She was taking her children to school, and the school that they had a problem with was this. Okay, so her children were going to St. Angela's Girls Secondary School. She was taking her children to secondary school, but she teaches at a primary school. And this primary school that she was teaching at is where the parents had taken issue with. So
they're saying that the school performed poorly and they actually get to a point of killing a teacher.
Well, here we go. According to the Kitui Kenya National Union of Teachers Branch Executive Secretary Simon Dingo, the mob accused the teacher of allegedly possessing black magic, which she used to torment their children at school. He termed the incident barbaric and a serious threat to the safety of the entire teaching fraternity. The school's head teacher, Mr. Dixon Mwasia, and members of their staff have since recorded a statement with the police regarding the incident. So this is what they accuse her for. So it's a twofold accusation. One, that the school did poorly, and in the same light...
She's a mchawi.
Exactly. And she was using this on their children. Wow.
This is one of those very, very bizarre stories that you actually, there's nothing more you can say. You just say, really? If it's come down to this, I think there's more that can be told from here, from this story. And I'm sure the story will come out. The people will be interviewed, people will tell their story. And the entire history of the community with this teacher will come to light. There must be something else.
There's definitely something else that's going on. The school has been closed now, and of course investigations are going on. But this is interesting too, that the killing happened a day after the angry parents had actually stormed the school and reportedly attacked the teacher alongside her colleagues, demanding their transfers over what they termed bad results. Because apparently they said she is a witch, or she uses black magic. So they had gone to the school the day before and had made a ruckus. But then the following day, now when she was taking her children to school, they lynched her.
They caught up with her and lynched her.
There's more to this story.
There definitely is more. There's a lot more that we're not being told
There's a
right
lot
now.
about how this community has related with this particular teacher.
Yeah. Over time, definitely.
Over time.
There's been...
I wouldn't even say community, because it wasn't as though all the parents who have
No, it was
children
a
in this
section of
school.
the parents.
It
Yeah.
was some. So in this group, there must have been someone who led the group.
Yes.
So you want to ask the narrative that began, which then pinpointed this lady as being at the heart of this problem. When this story unfolds, I'm sure some of these answers that we're seeking will be provided.
They'll come out.
Yes, because it cannot be that the school doesn't perform well and one
And
teacher
one
is singled
particular
out. No.
But the previous day when they attacked the school, she was amongst those that they attacked. And you don't know
Someone targeted her,
Hey.
and the blame was put on her.
Yeah. And the excuse was our children failed.
Our children
Yes,
failed
and
when you're a
then-
witch.
she's a
And then
witch.
they throw in witchcraft.
Yes.
And the thing about this, remember, we've had incidences not of bad results being spoken of, but people who have been tarred with that particular brush in certain parts of Nyanza, or what was formerly Nyanza. There were areas that were notorious for killing people for those reasons. All that people needed to do was name you, not determine, name you.
Just name.
And you were certainly, it
And
was
then
always
pounce
guaranteed
on
that you're
you
going to die.
And torture you and
And kill you.
And, completely. How trustees sent Karume's jewel to auctioneer's hammer. This is one of those stories that's shedding light on succession planning pitfalls. So it starts by saying the billionaire Jenga Karume was a meticulous planner who settled all his loans before his death, leaving his estate, including the Jacaranda Hotel, debt-free. He died in 2012. That's about 8 years ago. And today, his estate is in shambles. In fact, this jewel, the Jacaranda Hotel, has fallen to the auctioneer's hammer
Unfortunately.
because of debts.
There's something that I'd like to bring in as we're looking at this. There is a narrative that has been spoken of and has been held by many Kenyans for a long time. And it has targeted people from central Kenya, that they unfairly are, should we say, economically better off than most Kenyans. And they say, well, because they've been in government for a long time, they have friends. And they point to people who are wealthy. Now, look at people in central Kenya who are known to be wealthy. Just take your pick.
Yep.
Karume is in the headlines. There was Matiba. We've had others. Now, these empires that we speak of seem to have been built by these individuals. Upon their demise, think of even Michuki. It's handed on to the next generation. Without fail, there are problems. And without fail, the empire stops being what it was. So it means the person who began it was the real brain, was the real engine behind it.
Yeah.
But also, there is the indication that those businesses are probably not run well once the person who was in charge is no longer there. Now, for sure, and without a shadow of a doubt, the people in central Kenya have shown that among other Kenyans, they are perhaps the most enterprising and the most entrepreneurial. They will take risks. They'll do things that other people don't seem willing to do. They'll go to places that other people aren't willing to. But, of note, when you see such an empire, tell me, which other community do we have in this country where you can tell stories of people who actually had enormous wealth, and upon the demise of the patriarch of the family, it isn't. So it means the
Just
wealth...
a generation later.
One, not two, just two. One. One.
Father to son.
Yes.
Not
Mother
even
to
a
daughter.
decade after you're dead.
So this story, even when people tell it, they don't tell the complete story because there are stories of wealth being created, but they also don't tell the story of many people from central Kenya who are dirt poor amidst all this.
Yeah.
Now, so are we talking opportunity? Are we talking one's ability? I would argue that it's both, because for many people, even right now in Kenya, the opportunities are always there, but it's a question of who's willing to take it and who has the staying power. Because with business, it's not just a question of opportunity. You have to have staying power. You have to be able to withstand many things.
Yeah.
And many people are not. They want quick wealth.
They want quick wealth.
Yes. So this story, unfortunately, or fortunately in some ways, is a story of Kenya that one must look at and study even further. Because among communities in this country that do business, people focus on the businesses as they're doing well. Not a lot of stories about what happens after the patriarch is gone is told. And it's not a pleasant story.
It doesn't actually end up well.
No, it doesn't.
All of them. We're talking
and I
about
think
them.
we've seen
Kerima
them,
as well. The
Yes.
story.
Yeah, all of that.
There are issues.
It ends
There are
up in
always issues.
scandal, drama. There's something, you know.
Yes. But
And-
the other thing that people also assume, for instance, the other community in Kenya that are business are the Kenyans of Asian origin. You will find similar stories. You will find similar stories. If you look among the other community, Kenyans of Somali origin, you will find similar stories
as well.
So this wealth seems to, by the time it gets to the second generation, it's dissipating. Yes. It's not something that you can say has been carried on to a third or fourth generation. These stories are what I call the stories of the frailty of mankind. There's a Latin phrase for it. Sic transit gloria mundi. So passes the glory of this world.
Six transit.
Gloria
Mundi. Mundi.
Yes, and I'm not referring to a lady's name here. No.
Not Gloria.
Yes.
Speaking of glory that once was, Kenya Pipeline MD office is vacant again. Acting executive term ends as the court freezes the naming of a new company boss. The Kenya Pipeline Company Managing Director's office has fallen vacant after Mr. Hudson Andambi's term ended on the 2nd of January and his successor's appointment halted by a court. The former acting MD had his term extended twice since it expired in April 2019 and was then meant to retire at the end of December before a court ruled that the status quo be maintained as the successor's appointment is litigated. There have been 100 applicants. The board reportedly only got 3 qualified candidates when the position was first advertised. So let's see what the court says. But for now, the corner office has seen many come and go, and right now there is nobody.
Who took this case to court? Is it Senator Ledamo or Lekina?
This is
Because
one
he
of
had promised, and he's going to be joining us in the next hour.
Yeah, he
Senator
had promised
Olekina.
to take it to court to contest the names of these 3 individuals then now who were brought forward. So it would be interesting to know if he actually did that. So right now, there's no one in the corner office at Kenya Pipeline.
Okay. This is one of those big ones.
Yes.
There's some reactions that have been published in the Standard to the story of the week, so to speak. And this is the story of KRA's new tax, the turnover tax, 3% of gross revenue for small businesses. KRA has less than 6 months to raise 25 billion shillings from small businesses. And the reactions, of course, not even divergent. They're same. One, why can't the government minimize on unnecessary expenditure until the economy is stable? Choices of consequences. If we do not learn now, things will get worse. That's Steve Martin. Simon Mukabi says, why create laws to collect taxes that citizens are unwilling to pay? Either the whole leadership of this country is ignorant of the angry mood that people are in, or it just doesn't care. Take your pick. Ignorant or don't care. What do you think? Right, Portia Dada says, I have no other option but to close my small business. I can't stand being robbed like this. I'd rather die.
This is the thing, and this is what we were talking about yesterday. If I'm yet to see one view of something like this where someone says, actually, you know what, you're right. In my small business where I make a profit of 10,000 shillings a month, I see it as my patriotic duty
To give you 300 bob.
to give you 300 shillings, and I am going to do this because I stand with Kenya. I'm yet to see something like that.
Nobody's saying this. And yet, there's an advert on the paper today. I think it's on The Nation. If you just go through the pages by KRA. So KRA has an advert today, and in that advert, they are completely deaf to any of the outcry that you're saying. They are basically telling you how to log on to iTax,
To do this.
add this TOT as one of your tax obligations, and make sure that by 20th of this month you file your tax returns and pay your turnover tax.
It's because the
That's
search
all their advert is basically saying. This is how to pay turnover tax. You
whether
qualify
you like
if
it
you
or-
are this.
or-
You don't qualify if you are registered for VAT. If you are a limited liability company, you don't qualify. And this is how you do it. You go to itax.go.or.go.ke, whatever. You add this thing as your tax obligation. And on the 20th, by the way, we want your money.
Wrong approach, combative, and it's actually looking for trouble, because this is the sort of attitude and the sort of approach that guarantees opposition.
Absolutely.
It will be resisted, and it doesn't need to be resisted. If you premised this by simply opening certain taps, like the government began well by prioritizing paying people they owe money, whether it's at the national level or at the county level.
Yep.
They should even tell people the timetable of what they're doing and how much they have paid out and how they continue to pay out. Against such a background, and you give it a couple of months, if you introduce this tax, one can see what you're talking about.
After some time.
Yes.
Actually, was it towards November November when the president was launching that new scheme that allows small businesses to access funds, working
Yes.
with several banks, right? It's a government
Yes.
program that is working with several commercial banks, how small businesses can actually access financing from banks. So you've launched this, and then immediately
Tax. No.
let this thing work. Create more awareness. Tell people you can go and access money from these
Yes.
financial institutions.
Yes.
Watch as the businesses thrive. Then now say, now
And
guys.
then say, okay, now.
You know, this reminds me of the time when there was a supposed rollout of rural electrification. It wasn't moving. Kibaki came along and said, excuse me, why don't you just give these people electricity? How much does it cost? You can't charge that. Nobody's
charge.
going to pay. What you're going to do is include what you need to charge in the payment plan, right? So that it's affordable. But let them have the electricity.
Fast.
You have poles, don't you? Yes. You have...
Transformers.
yes.
You have cables.
yes. So what are they doing? Are you going to earn money if people don't have electricity? No.
No.
So why don't you let them use the electricity
And then pay.
Precisely. So people followed. People got electricity.
Now Kenya is actually an example in
Exactly.
Africa
In
of universal access to electricity.
Yes. Now, putting the horse before the cart. Now, these gentlemen are now putting the cart before the horse.
horse.
And
No, they have a cart, and then now they will look for the
They're
horse
looking for
later.
the horse.
They will look for the horse later. They're just saying, this
Or-
is the cart, move.
Or in our case, since we don't have horses, we have donkeys.
Yeah.
They built an abattoir for killing donkeys. So now there are no donkeys because they're killing donkeys or slaughtering
And they
donkeys.
expect the horse.
And there's a cart there.
They
they're waiting
expect the
for
cart to move. This is serious jokes. We're taking a look at what's been reported in the headlines. Shortly, we'll take a look at international. Of course, developing stories from Iran every day. We'll look at what's the latest coming out of Iran. Is it about the Ukrainian flight, or is it about Donald Trump? Is it about the Iranian leaders? And also, we'll take a look at what's happening to the royal family in the United Kingdom. It's 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So, CT,
Yes.
I'm seeing in international media, the Canadian Prime Minister is speaking about an accident that happened in Iran.
Yes.
Involving a flight that was heading to Ukraine.
Yes.
Explain.
This story is evolving, actually. It started by the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying that the accident has occurred. We know there are Canadians who perished in this, but yes, but we are now waiting for the Iranian government to tell us what it is they have found. Now, a lot of this evidence usually is found in what they call a black box. Okay? Now, first reports came out, and it was the Iranian government has said they are not handing over that right, but they are not boarding. They are not handing over that black box. That's what was
to
reported.
Boeing. Boeing is an American company.
Yes.
If
Now,
you are Iran, anyway, go on.
So, understood. Actually, the Iranians were not wrong on that front. Because from what I hear and read, and the onus is on the country in which the accident has occurred to actually give information as to what happened. After all, it is within their country.
Yeah.
They have all the instruments, and now for international flights to land there, it means they're equipped to actually determine certain things.
Yeah.
Now, it was left to them. But remember, there are many ways of determining what happened, even without the black box. One, you have satellites, all right? You have individuals who monitor. You have agencies that monitor this, apart from just the Iranian agencies, okay? And they will have their say. Now, what really obfuscates this whole scenario is the issue of the fight that Iran has with the U.S., because it's a fight, all right? And it started off with 12, 13 missiles. Today, I was listening to BBC, and they're saying it's 16 missiles.
Voila.
Okay? So, as of today, with all these missiles flying, the first, should we say, hypothesis that pointed towards wrongdoing came out and said, this plane may have been bombed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Based on what we've seen.
Based on what we think. That, again, now, today, what we hear is it appears it was actually hit by a missile and that it was accidental. And that it was assumed that it was a jet.
A fighter jet.
Yes, it was assumed. Now, unfortunately,
A flight has just taken off your main airport.
yes,
And it's on its flight path.
yes,
And you assume that things that are flying on this flight path right near the airport could be.
prior to even this, there were stories emanating from Iran that they were turning around to sort of like, they had noticed that there was a problem and that there was fire coming from the engine and that they were turning around to head back to the Tehran airport. That was one story. Then this story emerged that apparently 2 red dots. Now, the 2 red dots
Was seen.
okay, by radar. So one seemed to have been emanating from the ground and one was in the sky. And the dots appeared not at the same time, they were interspersed. And then there was this ball of fire hurtling down towards the earth.
Yeah.
So it is assumed that ball of fire was the
plane.
aeroplane.
The aeroplane.
Okay. So at some point, now these allegations go forth to say that at some point the aeroplane must have been hit. Now,
Whose radar is this? And who's this who's giving us this information?
This
Dot
by dots
Who's seeing
recollection
these dots? Where are they seeing the dots?
from.
Eric, you do know that I know very little about aerospace issues.
And
that
who
I-
are you
I-
quoting?
that
Okay,
I-
let me ask that more direct question. Who
I
are you
am quoting reports from BBC. Okay? And they are quoting reports that they have heard from people who have been following this information.
Aviation experts.
Yes. Now, and
Rumor
they were
mongers.
talking, the person who was actually giving this report was their expert on such matters, an expert who deals with such things. And what the expert was saying, because the expert actually came on air and said that it is not impossible to determine what actually happened, even without the black box. You can determine what happened. There are many ways of determining it. That's where these stories came in.
Did the plane disintegrate?
Yes. Now, whether it disintegrated in the air or it disintegrated on impact,
Yes.
I don't know.
You see, that's the other thing. You remember the actual accident over Ukraine of the flight from Malaysian Air? It was Malaysian Air.
was Malaysian.
Yes, over Ukraine. It was brought down. It was shot down. And now they were talking about this thing was shot down because it had disintegrated by the time it got to the ground. It
Connected
hit-
with the earth, right?
Yes, because of the vast distance over which the debris was thrown. you can see this thing did not break down when it hit ground. Now, this particular plane, I think we've seen some image of a fuselage on the ground. So it has not disintegrated midair.
Yeah, but you see, we
So
are
this
assuming...
thing of saying it was shot huko juu,
No, Eric, you're assuming that if a missile
I'm
hits
not
it,
boarding
it will...
You're assuming that it would
disintegrate.
disintegrate
It doesn't.
in the air because it was
doesn't.
hit by a missile?
No.
Yes.
No, it doesn't have to.
but that's
No,
what
no.
that's what they told us when they were those same experts, by the way, I'm sure they're the same ones that are quoted, are the same ones that spoke over the Ukraine issue. And the Ukraine issue was, how did this plane come down?
Eric, I
This
don't
plane,
know. I
unlike
can't-
the previous Malaysian Air that has gone
Disaster.
missing, this one clearly was shot down.
Eric, I don't even know that this plane was shot down. All I know is that there are all these reports coming in about what
What has happened?
could possibly have happened. So far, there's nothing that I've heard that I would say is absolutely conclusive about the matter.
Until
but what they
investigators
seem to be
conclude.
saying, and from the reports that I have heard and I've read, they're saying that this plane was shot down.
All right.
And then they add accidentally.
Get off the fence, City. Do you buy it or do you not?
Buy what?
Buy what
All
you-
the facts are not in. I cannot buy or pretend to buy something when I do not have all the facts. I don't have all the facts.
That's a nice position you've patched yourself up there. Very nice position.
Yes, it is
Built
true.
a fence.
I do not know.
Built a fence. It's electrified, and then you've put a sofa up
Talk
there.
to me about education, something I know, and then listen to my opinions on the subject.
Categorically.
Yes, you're asking me about disintegrating airplanes.
Opinion is not expert opinion.
All
Expert
I
opinion
know is
somebody
how
else.
to board a plane,
Yeah.
okay, and how to get a ticket to board a plane. That much I'm familiar with. These are the things about planes.
You don't know. How do you?
I will only speak about what other people have said.
Same thing you've told us about education matters as well. When you talk about NEMIS, you told us the same thing. You know, this thing, I don't know. It's okay, City.
And I didn't know.
It's
and
okay, it's
even
okay,
now,
it's
I am still
okay.
waiting to understand it
It's
further.
okay. It's okay. It's okay. You sit there.
My
Sit
dear
there.
man, actually,
It's
you do-
electrified.
you do
It's coming up
understand.
to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll take a look at the traffic and then we'll come back and hear what this gentleman is telling me. Young man. You do understand.
There's something following the young man. So,
You do understand.
Young man, you don't know the thing.
Please understand.
7 o'clock. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up
okay,
your life.
speaking of carts and horses, there's a horse standing in the middle of the road.
They found the KRA's cart.
They-
Horse.
They found the KRA horse in Githurai.
And the cart is the Times Tower.
Nothing is moving. And nothing is moving in the Githurai overpass because there's a horse standing in the middle of the road and you're being asked to approach with caution until somebody can actually come and remove it. KRA, your horse is in Githurai. You might want to find that. We'll let you know what's happening in different parts of the city once the horse has been removed. 07190126.
This is a real horse, of course. Huh? Okay.
Have you seen a photo of that horse?
I'll look for it. I'll let you know.
Okay, since we're on that trajectory, is it walking or flying?
It's standing in the middle of the road, literally, waiting.
Of the flyover.
Of the
right?
flyover, waiting to be picked
Ah.
up. So it's affecting traffic
How
this
does a
morning
horse get
on
up
the
to the flyover?
Githurai overpass.
Does it have a horn?
Where?
Is it white? 1 minute past 7 o'clock.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What is it?
Well, we're actually charting, should we say, new frontiers, because if we are talking about traffic and it begins and ends with a horse in the middle of the road, goodness.
You can't make this stuff up, CT.
No, I'm not saying we made it up. I'm just saying, what else are we going to be reporting?
I'm telling you.
Okay, horse in the middle of the road.
Yep,
Okay.
affecting your traffic.
There's some road, I'm sure our producer John will tell us, there's some road where they'll soon be reporting fish.
Feather Estate is
This
waiting
is-
to start reporting crocodiles.
Feather Estate crocodiles.
Yeah,
Gitanga Road, somewhere up Gitanga Road fish. Well, let's get into the issue of NHIF, shall we?
Right. So definitely, as we said earlier today, we're looking at tough new regulations coming from the National Health Insurance Fund. And what we see is that if you're a voluntary contributor, you can't even think about defaulting. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know if to call it fortunately or unfortunately, but in this case, NHIF has now joined the foray of institutions that will be perceived to be looking for money to be able to make up where it is that there are deficits, or at least clear what it has been in the red in terms of their books. Unfortunately, again, those who will be on the chopping block are you and I. Those will be the individuals, or the citizens will be the ones to suffer this. Initially, you could pay a certain amount per month and have access to services, but now what is seen to be that which should help you out seems to have turned to that which will hurt you, whether we like it or not. A service like a medical scheme to basically help you when you need to get into hospital or you need any kind of treatment is something that you should be able to access immediately. But with these new rules, we see something totally different. Should you start working today, what it means that is if you join NHIF, that you pay upfront a year in advance, 6,000 shillings, and you cannot access these services for 3 months, 90 days. So they're collecting all this money and nobody knows exactly what is being done with it. But one thing is for sure, those services are not being provided for you, at least for the next 90 days. Now, I know and I understand that money is needed to run a country. Money is needed to run institutions that would then provide services. But if the very same service that is being provided then is not being offered to the people for a particular point in time, you leave a vacuum in terms of services, and you leave a vacuum in terms of information of how these individuals are supposed to access this service. And I say that here we are again with another institution joining the foray. We should be looking critically at the provision of services for people, whether it's backed up by their shilling or not. So there's no reason why NHIF should not be able to offer services as you pay for them. And for somebody to see that they pay 6,000 shillings for them and their families and they're not able to get it up front, then there's a problem. Now, we've come at this again in a punitive manner without sharing the right information. And by the time the information gets to the people, these things have already been enacted. And what we do is continue to fuel contest. People are going to contest this. People are going to be disgruntled. People are going to be frustrated. And that which was meant for good is actually going to turn out to be something that is going to hurt the people, whether we like it or not. Government institutions have to be extremely careful when coming up with things like this, because you still have to be perceived to be a custodian of the people's health, their wealth, and their general well-being. If you're not, then we have a problem. It used to be that NHIF would just pay for beds. Now they're paying for your whole well-being, but it seems like it's going to be to the people's detriment, and it cannot be the case.
Hey, NHIF.
This is quite unfortunate because it comes hot on the heels of what KRA did on Monday. And of course, this is something that was these new rules, they didn't come up with them yesterday. It's something that has been on the burner for some time, obviously, and it's something that they decided to now announce to the people.
So they needed to announce it immediately after KRA has pulled their bomb.
Have dropped their bomb.
Bombshell on us. It's good.
You know, when they say
2 dots. No, these are 2 dots.
These are the 2 dots.
There's a third one. I'm sure NSSF is going to come up and also tell you that those who've retired and who need to be paid cannot
Wait.
be paid
Cannot
their
be
money
paid
for
for
X,
5
Y, Z.
years.
Unless they go back to work somewhere
and
and
do
contribute.
something.
So first of all, this new fees came to effect on the 1st of January
Of
2020.
January. Yes, whether you knew it or not.
NHIF is announcing it on the 7th of January.
This is what I'm
Now,
saying.
surely, start from there. How do you tell us, oh, by the way, starting last week, this is
Last week, by the way, you were now required to do 1, 2, 3. See, this is the problem then when there's a vacuum of information and,
and
you're not letting
then
people know
how
what's
it's
going
worded. In order to align the organization towards attainment of sustainable universal health coverage and for purpose of enhancing member retention, comma, now that point, for purposes of enhancing member retention, you are first of all saying that somebody who has defaulted, you'd like to retain, that's a member, all right? Somebody has defaulted for one reason or the other, and they want to come back and, resume payment. You're saying, first of all, we'll punish you for that.
Yes.
We've
So
increased
don't
the
default.
penalty. So
Yeah.
the penalty still goes up, and you will not be eligible to access the services immediately.
Now, let's be clear on what this
Punishment.
penalty is. If you defaulted for a year, let's say you defaulted for 3 years. So for each year, they will take 50% of your monthly contribution times 11. So 11 months of that
So
year that you've
500 is the monthly contribution.
So they'll take 250 shillings times 11. And if you've defaulted for more than a year, so now that's times the number of years that you have defaulted. You will pay them that upfront.
So this is basically 3,000 bob minus 250.
Let's assume that it's just 1 year. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's more than a year, it's times the number of years.
Hey.
Okay?
And then how long do you stay before you access?
So then what happens is you pay this amount of that which you have defaulted. Then you pay for a year upfront if you want to now access the services, which is 6,000 shillings. After that,
So I've paid
you've paid
3,000 minus 250 is what?
2,750.
All right, 2,750 plus 6,000 for the next year.
8,750.
And then?
So you pay that amount. Then you will wait for 90 days before you are now can now access the services.
So I paid close to 9,000 bob, and then I have to wait for 3 months to access the service.
Now, woe
And
be
those
tied.
3 months,
Woe be tied if you get sick within those 3 months.
but however, because I've paid for a whole year, am I then covered for 12 minus 12 minus 3 months?
No.
Am I covered for 9 months?
You're
Or am I covered for the whole?
You're covered for the whole year.
For the full year from the point it becomes active, or for the full year from the point I paid?
No, that's very interesting because it's for the full year
From the point I paid.
from the point you paid.
So basically, I've paid for a full year, but I'm
But you're
covered
going
for
to
9.
for 9. No, you've paid for a full year, but you're only going to access it for 9.
For 9 months.
Yes.
I'm covered for
So
9
woe
months.
be- woe
if I
be
can't
tied.
access it, I'm not covered.
Will be tied if you get sick. Within those 3 months, you will still have to pay for medical services out of pocket. Okay? And according to them, they're doing this to be in line with the conditions of UHC, to make UHC more accessible and to make sure that it is attained. It will boost the attainment of of universal health coverage and enhance member retention. Member retention.
If someone had difficulties determining how it is you can define nonsense, here we have it. Nonsense. What on earth are these people talking about? I mean, what do they think an NHIF service is intended for? Can you suspend illness? Can you sort of like delay it and wait and say, well, let's not get sick today?
Hold on, pneumonia.
Yes.
I don't have. I need 3 months, and then you can now come along and we can deal with you, because I believe that there was. If we look at the last, of course, because of my interest in health issues, you can see over the last 6 years specifically, when NHIF went through this whole robust and vibrant rebranding and bringing to the people, because you could actually get sick, you would get sick, maybe you needed a procedure done in hospital, and NHIF would actually cover everything for you. You would be able to go in, and before it was just a bed, like CT said previously, but now you could actually find that your entire hospital stay, as well as your treatment and other facilities, were taken care of by NHIF. Okay? And they went through this whole rebranding and making it done right.
And made it attractive.
Very attractive.
More and more people came in. More and more people actually volunteered
and they were
to
able
join this
to
service,
widen
the fund.
their customer base because of the fact that they did all of these things. Now, what it seems like is happening now and then of course, unfortunately, after this, NHIF was rocked by scandal, whereby there were billions that were missing, and of course, this money was said to have come from customers' contributions. Pieces of land that they were supposed to have bought then went into the hands of individuals. Members of the board coming out and talking about different people having been sacked because of allegations of corruption. So of course, it would appear that people's contributions disappeared. Now we're coming back and we're talking about retention of these same customers whose money had disappeared as a result of corruption. And then we're coming back and we're saying,
We want you to pay
more. Pay more. So when we're talking about food, when we're talking about security, when we're talking about medical services, education, and then people are having to worry about their security, and in terms of financial security, we had the same thing happen with NSSF at some point when money went missing and people didn't know what it was. I mean, here we are again, and we say pay, punitive, penalty, and that is only when you will access medical services. We cannot continue to do things like this.
If we look at the other insurance companies, though, it's almost applies the same way, although not for 90 days. So if you took up an insurance cover today, the fine print will tell you you're not eligible like immediately. If it's for the first time, if you're paying for the first time, joining the scheme for the first time, not eligible. If you're renewing, well, your scheme basically continues. However, when you talk about NHIF, we treat it differently because we are saying this is not an insurance company per se. This is an insurance fund where members are contributing, and then we are pooling resources together, and we are able to access services from those pooled resources. There's a way we look at NHIF different. Is it justified? Are we looking at it too harshly? Maybe they're sitting at a point where they're thinking, look, we need money. So we've expanded our services. People have enjoyed these services. In order for us to be able to retain the members, in order for us to be able to retain the level of quality of service that we're offering, we need to do some few things. And because we don't want people to, we don't want to increase the amount that people contribute per month, let's actually make it now find other ways of ensuring that we have constant cash in the pool.
Why don't we do a little math here, all right? And ask ourselves, for instance, the so-called job market that people enter. Let's assume that 500,000 young people get to the age of 18 and leave Form 4. Let's say 500,000 every year.
Yep.
Okay? Now, take the view that prior to this, if they were under any insurance cover, it was under their parents.
Yep.
Okay? So now they are now eligible. If we say, for instance, that all of them take up NHIF this year, that's 500,000 times 500,
Bob.
All right? How much does that come to?
500,000 times
500. Is it 2.5 billion? Or?
No, it gives us. It gives us 25.
Is it 25 billion or 2.5 billion?
It's not. If you just add 25, and then you
take the zeros.
Yes, the zeros are they come to 4 zeros.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 2.5 million.
It's 2.5 million. Yeah.
Million, just 2.5 million. All right. Now, if you multiply that,
No, it can't be 2.5 million, City.
No, it can't be 2.5 million. Half a million.
500.
So
or
we
half
have
a million.
Yeah.
Yes.
Half
Good.
It's
You're awake, so give me the
25
figures.
million. It's 25 million.
No, it isn't.
It's 2.5 B.
Here we are. It's
Wait,
a math
how
session.
did you guys do the maths? This is what I need to know. 500,000. That's
How many
million.
zeros are those?
Times
7.
100.
Those are
seven
those are
zeros.
7 zeros
Add
times
2 zeros.
500. Yes.
Add 2 zeros.
Yes.
How many zeros are those?
500 million are 6 zeros, folks.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So it's 50 million.
500,000.
It's 50 million, guys.
Okay, so your CT.
No, it's not 50 million. 5 times 5 is 25. So if it's 25, Eric is right.
It's 2.5 billion.
Eric is right.
Okay. Moving
Okay,
along swiftly.
use your computer. Use your phone.
All right.
Now,
Just-
remember,
John, please calculate for us. John is telling me
it's
it's 500. It's 50. How can
no, this
5
guy.
times 5 be 50?
Please stop relying on John.
John, you are done.
So what was it? 500,000 times what?
Times 500.
100 shillings.
It's actually 250 million.
Okay.
Okay, now multiply that by 12.
Months in a year.
It's 3 billion shillings.
Yes, from this one lot. if you have another 500,000 people joining that workforce every year, remember these are people who prior to this, did not have insurance cover. All right? It's a colossal.
They were beneficiaries of.
Yes. Now,
colossal
there's a
amount.
point I'm getting at here. Of these people, are you telling me that the health care provision for these people would amount to this amount of money every year, that these people would fall sick to the point where 3 billion shillings would be required to treat them? The answer is no.
No.
I'm giving this as an example. I'm simply saying NHF is an insurance cover like any other. And actuarism comes in, the maths, the figures are worked on. They know these numbers. They know the sort of people, the number of people who are likely to join the scheme. They know how much money to expect. They know. This is not something that you guess. By the time they were providing all those services that they were saying, they knew what they had. So it's not that people suddenly fell so ill that they consumed all the money. It doesn't work that way, because even as you spend, every month people pay into it.
Exactly.
It's not as though they pay this month and then wait for 6 months to pay. No, it's paid every single month.
And then you have a host of individuals who don't even control that payment.
The
It's cut from source.
The
in
vast
terms of what they
majority
earn.
of people who are in these schemes don't fall sick. So you cannot say, and others join in. This is a scheme that always has money coming into it. Even if you have institutions like the former Nakumat, who owe God knows how many millions in terms of unpaid remittances, money still gets paid into it. So what is this story that they're actually telling us?
There's more, actually, that might even raise your eyebrows a little higher, if that's possible. And we'll talk about those details. I think we're not going to go to a break now. But definitely looking at what is going on at NHIF, eyebrow-raising stuff.
Is
Indeed.
the horse still of that?
We'll check and see if the horse is still in the right.
We'll be talking about the horse in 10 minutes. This is a situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. We're discussing the new stuff from NHIF, which really is going to be rabble-rousing, just to say the least. You can join the conversation after past on 0719 012 600. It's 20 minutes past 7. Good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
Let's
Nairobi.
continue the conversation. No more mental math again, City, please.
Exercise your brain.
Exercise your brain this morning. Use the nutrients that you were given early. But okay, I mean, looking at some of
Just
more,
read those things again.
Okay,
Just
so
take
I
us
mean,
through.
in addition to more of what is going on, the affected members will wait for 90 days, up from the current 60, to enjoy benefits, up from the current 60. So initially it was 60 days, but now with these new rules, it is an additional 30 days for you to wait to access these services. They've also introduced a 12-month upfront payment for those who are joining. So if you're joining NHIF today, you don't have the option of there was 3 months in advance or 1 month in advance kind of thing. You don't have that option. You will pay for the year in advance.
6,000.
Exactly. And now indicative of the fact that yes, they are. It's clear that they're looking for money from wherever they can get it. I wish they were a little bit more creative, but that's a story for another day. Also, with effect from the 1st of January, a member can include only one spouse. So those who have 3, 4, wives, forget
Spice.
about spice. Those who have 3 or 4 spice, forget about it. A member can only include one spouse and 5 children as dependents. So if you have more than 5 children, as City would say,
Pay the extra.
sorry. Additional dependents can be included subject to payment of additional premiums. So if you want to add more children, you pay more. If a member defaults for a year or more, and this is more on top of the 500, please understand that there's the 500, which is the premium. So if you have more children, for those additional dependents, you will pay on top of the 500. Okay? Now, this is interesting because it's shrouded in all kinds of ambiguity that will take you to some time to figure it out. Additional dependents, now, these additional premiums will be communicated, not now, but after some actuarial valuation is done. So it is at their purview. They are the ones who will then decide how much they will charge if one child...
Why can't they just tell us now? I have the children now.
Exactly. I have the children now. Just tell me now. What are you evaluating? Or what are you
Are
valuing?
you saying that NHIF does not have actuaries within it? Of course it does have actuaries employed there. So what is it that we are saying?
This is the thing. Now, if you then register your entire family, maybe you have 3 children, your spouse and your 3 children have then been registered for NSSF or NHIF, and then your wife or whom you get pregnant again and you have another child. If at the point of registration you did not register this child that you did not know you were having, they will not benefit from the specialized package. They will be subjected to
Pause.
6 months.
Start again, please.
Okay.
If
Any dependent declared after the initial registration will not benefit from a specialized package or a maternity package. Anybody coming after that. So now that includes mother, child, children, care, all of this. They
Or
will
spice.
or spice. They will be subjected to 6 months waiting after such declaration. Okay.
so, I join NHIF in January. I pay for the full year, the 12 months, 6,000 bob. I get married in June.
yes.
I have a dependent. So this person does not enjoy until next year.
Yes. If you get married in June, you declare them in June, they will not begin to access the services until January.
And January, my cover will have expired. So I'm starting
You
afresh,
start afresh.
with them now on board.
And note
So
that,
within that 6 month period, they're not covered.
right.
If I pay in January, all right, and then I'm not pregnant, then if I fall, well, you're not pregnant, then you fall pregnant in March. So this baby is you're not eligible for, but the mother is covered. So the mother will actually have access to maternity care.
The mother will have access to maternity care if they fall within that period. Okay. So now you can imagine the conundrum that would be if you then
You didn't declare this.
they did not declare any of this.
Yes, look at all.
But a child who's born within that year, because you may actually take up the cover in January, then get pregnant and have a child before the end of
Look
the
at
year.
everything they're saying in totality. You are paying for a service that you will not get
For at
immediately.
least 3 months.
Yes, minimum 3 months. But there are other specialized services that you may have to wait longer for. And it doesn't just include you, it includes your dependents or your children. Now, when you rent a house and you pay a deposit, you usually actually move in immediately.
Because that's what you're paying
it's
for.
how it works. You pay this month's rent, you pay a deposit,
deposit.
1 month or sometimes 2 months, but you move in. This one,
It's telling you pay now.
Wherever you live,
Come in
that's not
March.
our
and
problem.
keep paying.
Come March.
Come March, and then keep waiting.
Pay for the first quarter.
And then
But
even
you're not-
more, even if you pay and then you did not come, defaulters, that money that you paid, we're not going to give it back to you.
You start again.
You start afresh, and that money, we don't count it as anything. That one has gone.
That is ours.
Forget it. That is ours. That's up to us. So, I mean, here
And
we are.
previously,
Actually, why do we penalize somebody who has defaulted? Now, look at it this way. If you look at the way we pay for airtime, for instance, or even the way we're paying for internet services nowadays, pay per use.
not only that, they even allow you to borrow bundles in case you don't have money right there and then. Because they know very well you need to use the phone and you'll pay back. But
So I'm registered into this scheme.
yes,
I have not used the service for the year.
yes.
Right? And then the next year, I don't pay. I don't seek any services for that year. On the third year, I want to come and pay.
They cancel your
Why do you
membership.
want to penalize me for the year that I did not pay, or even come and claim it for any?
You know, this now is, and this is the other phase of impunity. You started off by offering a service that was attractive
It
and
was beautiful. People,
somehow they realized this thing is really giving us money. But somewhere along the line, this money hasn't gone where it should, and we now need more. So they're following hotly on the footsteps of KRA. Okay? Let us just abuse these Kenyans whom we're used to abusing anyway.
Because they're not going to ask questions.
This is an abusive relationship. This is a relationship where people have their faith in you, and you're taking that faith and trampling on it and kicking it around and offering it. There's even no discussion here. You're just being told this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to do.
Oh, this is what we did. We're just informing you now.
Yes, now.
Yeah.
How can anything get crazier than this? And this is a service that actually depends on the goodwill of the public.
Because
And
if
this
they don't
public
pay,
are
you're
your
nowhere.
partners, and this is how you're treating them. This is shoddy treatment.
I'm keeping quiet because I'm trying to think. The board, it's actually a special board meeting. They sat, they discussed this. It was presented to them by management. There must have been justifications. Maybe we're just not seeing the justification. Maybe we just need to step back and ask ourselves, what could that justification be? And open up the phone lines as well, 0719 012 600. Our friend from Matu, where are you today? Yegon, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Eric.
Start with Happy New Year.
Siti, Duoko,
Yeah,
and then
God.
I say,
Hey.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
I am fine.
Uh-huh.
Are you eating the locust in Wajir, or are you in Matu, or are you in Nandi?
No, I'm in Nand.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you think of the new NHIF scheme regulations?
That is the highest order of impunity in this country. And I think that our country have decided to milk Kenyans.
Milk dry.
Yes, why should you penalize someone? Because if I have not activated my NHIF for the last 3 months,
Yeah.
it means that I have not used your services.
Yep.
Exactly.
Now, if they want to penalize this person, now why don't they now give us the money at the end of the year for those of us
Who
we
didn't
have-
use the service?
Yes, because I'm being deducted monthly every month.
Uh-huh.
I've been in the scheme for the last 3 years. I've never used it.
Yep.
Now, who is using my package?
Other members. That's the whole purpose of it being a fund.
Yes. So if other members are using it and I have not yet used it, why should you penalize someone who have not used it?
Indeed.
This the same impunity is extended to even to one of our board. I think we need to discuss this one day. We have a board whereby when someone graduates, for example, in 2015,
Yep.
and maybe fail to sit for exams, for the board exam, so that they can get a license. And he used to sit for that exam now this year, 2020.
Uh-huh.
So after when you qualified for exams and get the license board,
Uh-huh.
you will be charged from the day you graduated in the school.
So from 2015 when you graduated, sitting the exam, you will pay.
You will pay for that since 2015. These people are charging you to pay, and yet during that time they are saying that there is no practice of medical laboratory with no license.
Yeah.
So you have not practiced, but you have been charged. It's like you are renewing a license since 2015. So it's the same scheme now. The NHIF are employing.
Yeah.
They are following the footsteps of KRA.
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Completely crazy again. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Yegon, thank you.
We wish you a good day. Well, it's a conversation that continues. Of course, we're opening up the phone lines now. We'd like, if you can even try to understand what exactly is making NHIF do these callers, and let's hear what you have in mind. 0719 012 600. We are talking about the new scheme, the new regulations that have been released by NHIF, especially serving the voluntary member scheme, the ones that pay 500 bob a month, and the punitive measures that have been introduced. Let's just call them that, punitive measures. Let's take a look at traffic, and then we continue the conversation. Good morning.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Traffic.
Yep, definitely a Friday morning in the city of Nairobi. The southern bypass from the Kikambura, Ndenya, Limuru all the way is clear, though it's foggy in some areas, so please approach with caution, or at least put your fog lights on so that you can see where you're going. If you're using the service lane from Garden City towards Club Bourbon, please avoid. There's an accident there, and this, of course, is Thika Road. Serving out those vibes this morning. Already an accident there, so the traffic has already begun to pile up. It's happy hour on Kiambu Road. It slows you down as you approach Mathaiga though, but not much of an issue. Mombasa Road, Green Park Estate to Athi River is moving exceptionally well. Limuru Road is clear all the way. There's traffic at the Globe Cinema overpass, but then it flows not so badly thereafter. Let's see what's happening outside the city of Nairobi. Mombasa coming up Moi Avenue, not so bad. And of course, Obote Road in Kisumu all the way to the airport, we're giving you the all clear. We'll take a look in a short while. If you see anything we should know about, give us a call on 0719 012 600.
.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
28 to 8. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, Spice FM KE, on our Twitter handle at Spice FM KE, and also on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. We are broadcasting from Nairobi on 94.4. We are in Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi. The Situation Room this morning has CT Muga, Eric Latif, and Duoko. We've opened up the phone line so we can hear your reaction to what the NHIF has done. Let's go straight to it in Parklands. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning, Spice FM. Thank you for your good program as always.
Morning, Lydia.
I wanted to say, that NHIF, none of the hospitals are impressed about it. They don't rely on it at all. They just say it never ever comes. Can you imagine? Even that sounds even worse. So there should be somebody who should dialogue with these NHIF people. Everything they want now to charge penalties and etc. But their share of the work, they don't care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
She's saying some of the service providers are also unhappy with the
The way in which
NHIF.
NFI operates.
They make claims they don't. NHIF does not pay.
I took over the break. I said, okay, Ndu, maybe we're being a little bit harsh on NHIF, and maybe we need to look through the details of this a little bit more. But unfortunately, no, I can't find anything to say that yes, it is being a bit too harsh, or that we're taking it out on NHIF when we actually should not be. That's not the case. We see something here, and unfortunately, it's being lumped on us. And yes, and I say sometimes people call me. You say that doomsday representative. All right, but it looks to me that more and more are going to get on this bandwagon and try to milk Kenyans for as much as they can in the next coming months. Sorry, because we know for sure that money is being looked for in drones, and it has to come in. They've been given deadlines. KRA the other day, 25 billion by a certain date. And they have to recover that from domestic taxes. 6 point, I don't know how many trillion by next year. And the stress and the pressure is going to come upon the people. Here again, we have a medical service or a fund that's supposed to help with medical services to citizens. It's not going to happen because people are going to say, you know what, it's too much. Then we're not going to pay. I mean, after all, I can pay for it for a year and I don't access the services. So what difference is it going to make? And you're going to have people making that decision based on this. Furthermore, when you don't give people all the information they need to operate this thing, you're basically saying, yeah, well, here we are and we are the authority. So you basically have to do what we say. You can't treat people like that. Not when you're working on an economy that needs to survive. Not when you're dealing with a fund that depends on the contributions of these people to run the thing in the first place. That's where the problem is. It is upon them that you depend. So you've made something so attractive to them. Some people in that population have used it. And then after some time, you realize we need more of this money. So you take it back.
Why
You open
would
the hand and
somebody?
you close
Why
the
would
fist
somebody
at the same
default?
time.
Somebody would not default just because they think, come on, this thing does not make sense. Somebody would default because of very many reasons.
It's
One of them
interesting that you say
including
that.
the fact that
Job loss.
job losses, they don't have money to pay.
And job losses in Kenya is a growth industry.
Yes.
It is a growth industry in this case because
Yes.
what are we looking at? The levels of unemployment over the last 1 year and ways in which they have the levels have risen.
And more people
are bound
keep
to lose their
being-
jobs.
Yes, more people keep losing their jobs. The numbers are not going down. We keep
We keep
reading of
hearing
reports.
every
now,
new day.
If these things were deducted
Pause.
directly,
Let's
yes,
go to the phone lines because the calls are coming in. Tony, where are you calling from, Tony? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling from Mombasa.
How are you doing?
Fine. I want to contribute on this issue, and I think over and above the extra, the 3 months buffer that they're putting in, can we look at this thing in terms of is it profitable? If you look at it like an insurance company,
Yeah.
the premiums vis-a-vis the bills that are paid,
Yeah.
is it sustainable? Is NHIF sustainable?
What do you think? Is it or is it not? What do you think?
I think it is not. If you compare the premiums that have been paid in the other private medical providers
Yeah.
and look at the minimal amount that we are paying as citizens. I think there's a strain somewhere. Maybe we are not being told, but the bills they are paying vis-a-vis the premiums collected, it doesn't make sense.
Actually, in October 2019, the Minister for Health, Cecily Kariuki, actually said that it was bleeding financially. But
Bleeding financially.
yes, that's what the newspapers have reported. But let me ask the question: if you think of insurance companies, many actually claim that this health insurance isn't really profitable. But let me ask the question: do any of these insurance companies have the numbers that NHIF has?
No.
Because
don't.
No, they don't have.
they base it on pooling, isn't it? They
Yeah.
just and the numbers. Unless
You
they
see,
can
when
show
you-
us numerically how it is that this thing isn't working for them and how it would work, because then that would be easy to understand what it is they're doing and how they need to do it. But if they just throw certain dictates at you, then you're left in the dark asking questions that you can't actually answer yourself.
Yeah, I think the issue is information. They need to provide clear information on this.
Yeah.
And I think that is
Otherwise, it is true they are bleeding.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, Tony. Let's go to Yvonne in Utawala. Good morning, Yvonne.
Morning, how are you?
good.
We're fine,
Fine.
thank you.
I contribute to this NHIF new rules. First of all, they are such a pain in the thorn, in the flesh, because
Pain, fun, everything.
because the pool that we are talking about currently is not even fair. Because the biggest beneficiaries of NHIF are civil servants. They get to go to Aga Khan, they get to go to all the big hospitals and have everything covered. And then these other people, the people that contribute 500, don't even get the approvals on time. You could be having, you may need a scan to be done, and it will take you like 2 weeks to get it approved while you're in pain. So, and then another thing, some of us contribute around 1,200 per month.
Right.
Still getting approvals is a difficult thing. While, so when we talk of a pool, the pool is already very unfair. It benefits the civil servants. They get the best of medication, and the rest of us have to go to public hospitals and still not get what we need to get. When we are paying 1,200 a month, we are not even paying 500 a month. So with the new rules, I don't know if the people paying 1,200, but as we are remitting, so maybe we don't get to
Maybe don't get to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah. So it is.
Thank you.
very
0719-012-600. That's the number to call in. 0719-012-600. We'd like to hear what you think on this. But let's also clarify something. I think the public servants are under a separate scheme. It's actually called a managed scheme.
Yes, they're under a separate scheme, yes.
The NHIF came up with these different products for different organizations. They call it the managed scheme. So under a managed scheme, you pay a certain higher premium, and then you are able to access a bit more of a wider array of services.
Which is what I think was also clear, even within these new rules that have been set aside, or it was clear that upon actuarial valuation, you could actually pay more if you wanted to access some of these better services, which, as you say, is what is provided. But something that rings very clear is that information is lacking.
There's lack
in
of
terms
information.
Yes, absolutely, and we keep saying this. I mean, and I don't think that there will ever be an opportunity when we can't or shouldn't, is that when you don't provide adequate information upon which people can then make decisions, what you do is that you leave space for them to speculate. With the stories that we saw about this,
get bad vibe.
Oh, absolutely.
More from the calls. Timothy in Nairobi. Good morning, Timothy.
Morning, how are you?
Fine,
Fine.
thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Timothy.
Yes. I think NHIS is being very unfair because if you look at many hospitals that have closed the year, the final year last year,
Yep.
most of them their biggest predicament was NHIS payments. So if NHIS is going to say we're going to penalize our members this and the other, then hospitals will also say you know what, because you have paid us for all the people whom we have delivered and provided services for, we are also going to penalize you.
Yeah.
Because they don't pay on time. I mean, the hospitals have not been paid huge sums of money by NHIS. So are they willing to go through the same thing, or are they using their monopolistic power?
Yeah, we hear you, Timothy. Thank you very much. I think your Bluetooth is giving you issues. Let's go to Mohammed. Mohammed, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Mine is somehow different.
Mm-hmm.
I was a contributor to NHI for the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I retired in September, and I was told I couldn't access anymore. I retired in September, and then I paid 500 shillings up to December last year.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to the hospital, I was told that I will not access any medical because the cover has expired. I went to NHIF,
Mm-hmm.
checked. Somebody told me that you have your contribution is around 1.5 million,
Yeah.
but the hospitals are not ready to give me drugs, especially for this what do we call I'm diabetic.
So with your NHIF card.
You can, yes, I have the NHIF card. They told me that they can give me any other things, but not lifestyle disease. So I just wonder how is it wrong for somebody to retire?
Actually, is it even wrong to be sick?
It sounds like you're being punished for that.
Yes, I'm being punished. I've been a contributor for the last 40 years. I've worked in the government for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Sana Mohammed, this sounds like, it's something that NHIF should be able to actually just call you and sit you down and tell you this is what's happening.
And these are the reasons why we said
these are the
1, 2,
reasons,
3.
and this is what you need to do. In fact, that's what they should basically tell you. This is how we propose that you go about it. You've got this, and these are the services that you require. This is how we can
There's
work
an
with you.
information gap, clearly.
Total information gap. Complete one. Let's pick this one from Dr. Shan in Mombasa. Good morning, Doc.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I'm a doctor by profession. Morning to all of you.
Yeah.
NHIF is a ticking bomb.
Explain.
The question is, when is it going to explode?
Right.
Okay? I've been a doctor for 38 years, and I can assure you that there is no way NHIF can be sustained. There is so much of corruption. People have been telling you that they go to NHIF offices, they don't get clearances, blah, 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 blah. I am a doctor by profession, and I have seen patients crying in front of me for getting even small things done because they have been paying for NHIF for many, many years, and yet when they go for the authorization, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And the people who get it, they don't deserve it.
Doc, what is it that is ailing NHIF? So
What is the problem, right?
there's a lot of
Like,
corruption,
what is
but
ailing-
beyond that, what else?
What is ailing everything in this country?
Wheezy.
Corruption.
I would ask you. I would ask you that question.
Theft of
What
public
is ailing
resources
everything? Absolutely.
and
So there you
mismanagement.
So you have answered the question.
So are you saying that you actually, if we go to a place where it was managed well and there was no pilferage, that the way it is right now, that scheme is sustainable?
It can become sustainable. You see, like even in United Kingdom,
Yep.
which is far richer than us,
Yep.
NHS, which is like a universal healthcare, what the president has been
Right.
advocating,
Yep.
is having its own issues and problems, in spite of the fact that it's such a rich country.
Yeah.
Universal healthcare everywhere in the world is having issues.
Yes.
Because the cost of medical service have escalated so much in last 30 years that it has become unsustainable. But having said all those things, we still need to do something for the people who need it.
Absolutely.
And NHIF is a good way of starting that first step. But unfortunately, like everything else, we are going to mess it up. We have rather already messed it up.
Yeah.
You know, I know how much money is being owed by NHIF to certain hospitals.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal and colossal amount. That's why I said it's a ticking time bomb.
Oh, unfortunate. Thank you very
We
much,
just have
Dr.
to
Shan.
wait. Thank you. Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Dr. Shan. George as well, who's also in Mombasa. Good morning, George.
Morning to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Yeah, the problem we have in this country is what? The 190, when they start the 190 stage, the government does not have the due respect to the
George, there's a problem with your line. Please call back. I think there's a problem. It's going off.
Hello?
Let's go to the other George who's in Eldoret. Good morning, George in Eldoret.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Good
Fine,
morning.
thank you.
I really think NHIF thing is a huge scam. You see, like the gentleman who was called and is saying that he was denied services because of diabetes and other conditions. That is really wrong. You know, like the question that you correctly ask, nobody chooses what to ail from. Yeah. That is a medical condition that requires NHIF's intervention. I think it's a high time NHIF becomes, you know, they should be given a level playing field like other insurance, covers. Like APA, you know, AAR, you know, so that they become competitive. In fact, it should just be a hospital insurance, not national. Because, like, if you ask me, I never chose to become a member of NHIF. I only find myself
contributing
to NHIF because they refer to it as a statutory deduction. That is so wrong. I think it's a high time they need to be reduced into just like any other insurance cover so that they become even competitive and they compete with other people. Because, for example, I'm paying for a personal insurance cover and my payslip is also remitting to NHIF. I've never used NHIF in my life, but I keep paying for it.
Never sought medical services. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
You've never sought medical services in public hospitals or even in private hospitals in Kenya?
Not through NHIF. I use my medical cover because I pay an independent medical insurance cover apart from NHIF. I think they should be reduced to such so that they become competitive and even creative.
Right.
Thank you very much, George. Strong points.
Great, thanks.
It's a big issue. I mean, it's like Dr. Shan has said, it's a ticking time bomb. Well, I think that's a very
dramatic or graphic.
No, he's not, very graphic.
He's actually not wrong. He's actually not wrong.
He's on point with that. Yes.
You see, when people are accustomed to doing whatever they like and without being questioned or without holes being poked into what they do, it might appear like all is well. Right now, with these pronouncements, people are asking questions that probably have been lingering but have not been asked. Now they're being asked.
Now there's opportunity for those questions to be asked.
And you're grinding the numbers and saying, okay, let's start and say, what is the membership of NHIF? How much do they actually collect on a monthly basis? And let them tell us what it is that they spend or pay. Yet we keep hearing of them not paying.
And you know, this is unfortunate because there's always a rider. When the KRA presented this tax, it was then dubbed the patriotism tax, whereby you feel that you're actually doing something for your country. Now we see this with NHIF and they're saying, you know what? Right, there you go. So now here we have this NHIF new rules and regulations. What they're basically telling you is that in order for UHC to be achieved,
let your country bleed you.
These new rules and regulations need to be followed so that one of the big four agenda, UHC, can actually be then achieved. Will you guilt people into stealing from them?
We need to hear a bit more from NHIF. This is what we're discussing this hour. The new regulations by NHIF, the new penalties and fees. Well, they've not raised the fees. They've just come up with new ways of getting money up front. It's a clever way. It's 10 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll be joined shortly by the Narok Senator Ledama Olekina, who will be coming here to talk to us about various issues, the Senate and how the Senate works and how the Senate operates and how laws are made within the Senate. And of course, he's raised very many other issues about the country and how the country is being managed. Good morning. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
.1 Spice FM, Kisi. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. 96.1 Spice FM, Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
8 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Of course, live streaming on our digital platforms, www.spicefm.co.ke. We are on Facebook, Spice FM KE. We are live streaming on YouTube, Spice FM KE. Join the conversation on Twitter via the hashtag The Situation Room. And our Twitter handle is Spice FM KE. Our next guest needs no introduction. This is a man who has been very vocal lately. This is the Senator for Narok, Ledama Olekina. Karibu sana. And thank you for accepting to actually come and speak to us this morning.
Anytime.
Now, you know, of course, we've been talking to you over the phone a number of times that we've spoken with you. We are discussing, before we actually come to talk about the Senate and all, we are discussing NHIF. You've seen, of course, what NHIF said.
Yes.
The new regulations. What is your immediate reaction to that?
I'm appalled. I think there is a huge disconnect between government policies. It's as if we have two different arms of government, because you cannot legalize polygamy in this country, yet discriminate. It's just so wrong. You cannot come in and say that one wife, 5 children. You see, we are living as if we are living in a different world. We are not living in Kenya. What happened to someone who has 7 kids? So you discriminate the other 2 kids? I think there's something seriously wrong with us legislators, and I can say that. And the problem is this. The framers of the Constitution, when they were trying to divide the roles between the 2 houses of Parliament, they were very gracious to the House of Representatives or the National Assembly in terms of giving them so much powers. And the Senate was not given a lot. And when you look at the trend, a lot of my colleagues in the National Assemblies do not even read the legislation proposals which are brought before them. You know, I heard recently some of them complaining about the 3% turnover tax. And, you know, I was just like, listen, this was in the finance bill.
And they passed
it. And you passed it. It doesn't come to the Senate. And this is why we're saying this old nonsense about BBI should be looking at all these issues. There's no piece of legislation which should only be the prerogative of one house. It has to be any piece of legislation. It must go, after it has been passed by the House of Representatives of the National Assembly, it must go to the Senate for it to, before it goes into the President. And also, currently the way it is that the National Assembly has got original jurisdictions on legislation. We want the same in the Senate. You know, if we cannot be discriminatory, and that's the reason why we're having all these problems.
Well, you know? I mean, I hear us saying essentially is that these, because we asked the question, today is the 10th of January, and this is when it's now being made to the public, just about NHIF, for example. And of course, then we're being given the details that this was actually, it is not a conversation that was had this year. It was not plans that were made this year.
A board meeting happened last year.
A board meeting happened last year. Plans and things were put into place. And then the people for whom the bulk of the responsibility lies for the enactment of this thing, they are the ones who are going to drive this. The information then is shared with them at a later date. What are we doing? And then for us to hear that these things are read, the people who, of course, the onus then lies upon them to legislate, they know this beforehand, and it is theirs. The responsibility is with them for the protection of the people. So what are we doing, honestly? And then the question is, why then do we have legislators in place who are not there to protect the people?
I think civic education is very important. And I think listeners out there must also take a proactive approach in understanding their role in terms of building a nation. This is political science 101. You know, I'm sure you've heard there's no taxation without representation. But also, I would add that you also must be able to be proactive and say, what is in it in me? What can I do? You know, to be able to ensure that whoever I'm electing to go and represent me fully understand my problems. There's a huge disconnect. And this disconnect is fueled by the fact that during an election cycle, what really take precedence is the amount of money that you can give the voters.
And tribe and clan.
And tribe and clan. You know, I have to say, that I come from a school of thoughts, or a people actually, who elected me, not because of the money that I gave them, because I didn't give them any, but because they believed in me. Because, Eric, I can tell you this. I come from a very, very small clan. If I was to depend on my clan to elect me,
you would never be a
I
cattle
would
dip
never
chairman.
be. I would never be a kettle dip chairman. To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So I hope that whatever happened to me would be able to
Can be replicated
to
around the
be
country.
replicated across the country, and then people are elected because of what they are able to deliver, but not because of the clan they come from. You know, and that is the reason why I really don't care about what you say. I care about what the people are benefiting. That's why whenever I'm fighting on an issue, I am not a sycophant of anyone. You know, I totally believe that I represent the people of Narok, and that's what I want to do.
Right. Well, we're looking with NHIF, and we talked the KRA turnover tax that was announced to us on Monday, and now within the same week, Friday, now we have announcement coming from NHIF. I wouldn't be surprised if next Monday we have something coming out of NSSF, and then maybe on Thursday we have something coming out of the Ministry for Transport. You know, it wouldn't be surprising to me in any way whatsoever. And I think, unfortunately, the people are beginning to expect bad news. And again, even more unfortunately, is that we really can't do anything about this. They're not going to overturn their decision.
No, you must understand. We must raise money because we need money to govern the to run the country.
Okay, if
right?
that is the
We
case,
have
then
got
the same
debts to pay.
the same
And this is
NHIF
what's
that we're
happening.
talking about is being rocked in 2019.
Eric, did
2019,
we suddenly,
which was
Eric, did we suddenly acquire this debt?
leave Eric.
No,
wait.
no. We
10
didn't suddenly acquire it. But
10 billion shillings is the scandal that is still being investigated within the same NHIF. And we're not talking about 10 years ago, 2019, which was literally 10 days ago. That's what we're talking about. 10 billion shillings cannot be accounted for within the same fund that is now coming to people today and telling them that we're going to ask for your money upfront and then not provide you with medical services.
It's a big issue. I think the issue of NHIF will continue to see what happens and how it breaks down, and NHIF needs to come out and explain exactly what this is. We have the Senator for Narok, Ledamo Olekina, who's just joined us. We're going to have a conversation with him in the next hour. First, let's take a look at traffic, and then, of course, as we continue the conversation with the Senator, we'll ask you to join in and join the conversation on our social media platforms. And at some point, call in 0719-012-600. Good morning. This is a Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation at 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up your life.
All right, it's slow but moving right around Mufaiga, trying to join a thicker road. But unfortunately, getting onto thicker road is bumper to bumper right around the NYS traffic headquarters. Literally a parking lot this morning. It is Friday. We've come to the end of the week, but that means that we're seeing traffic absolutely bouncing back to normal. Red Hill Road runs from Limuru Road near Village Market to Gashie, and we see quite a lot of traffic from there as well, trying to get into the city centre. So that's not happening this morning, unfortunately. Coming off Mombasa Road inbound to the city, we have quite a clog up right around Cabanas and then going all the way stretch past General Motors and of course the IDC. All right, getting off Waiyaki Way is a jam all the way from the Safaricom headquarters all the way down into the city centre. So we're looking at traffic hour right now, and it's not likely to phase off for another 30 minutes or so. So sit tight. Let us know if you find an alternative route that we can share. Keep people moving this Friday morning. 0719-012-600.
What's the status of the horse? Or was it one of those stories?
Well,
It
we haven't heard any if pigs fly, if horses fly in this case. Maybe we'll get the tax overturned. We'll wait and see. But for now, all news about the horse is that it's still there. Let's see.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
So in the 5 minutes that our guest has spoken this morning, he has already given us his slant of the conversation. He's already said the National Assembly, short of calling them inept, basically.
No, they are.
There you go. So
now
not
that we
short.
have that out of the way.
All right. So National Assembly inept, BBI nonsense.
Yes.
We talk about
Legislators who
legislators who can't and don't read. We're talking about also the voters who do not think and scrutinize the people that are going into the election. Okay, so we already know where you stand. Now let's start with, where do we start? Start with the BBI. Let's start with BBI. Why is it nonsense, Senator?
You know, they always say you preach. Do you preach water and you drink wine?
Drink wine, yes.
That's exactly what is happening. If we care about inclusivity in this country, if we care about not equity, but what is the other thing of equity? Anyway, it will come to my mind.
Distribution of resources,
Not
for
even
example?
no. I mean, if you care about trying to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor, because we can never achieve equity in this country. There's no way we can achieve equity in this country. Eric, you and I can never be equal.
Yeah.
My sister from Nigeria, Kenyan by birth, by right, you and I can never be equal. But there is a form of acceptable way of us saying, okay, you know, since we come from different areas, we can share the cake equally somehow. So there is equity versus equality. Equity was the word that I was looking for. If you look at the current president, he is preaching BBI. My party leader is preaching BBI. But if you look at the way the appointments in this government are being distributed, they are all skewed towards one ethnic group, but not even one ethnic group, one elite society. You know, it's an elite group of people who happen to come from one particular ethnic group.
The elite,
now,
and also they're of the same tribe.
Elite.
You did
You know.
notice that when Mheshimiwa said group, he looked at me.
No. I was looking at you so that I can be able to be sure that I'm looking at all the three of you. You know, I'm sitting in a position where I have to turn left, right, and center. But let me.
So there's equity. There's equity in your focus.
You know, yeah. So there's equity. You know, in my focus. You
Right.
know,
An
there's
equal distribution of focus.
There's no equality, but there's some form of equity.
Right.
Yes.
So the problem is this: if the president and my party leader did care so much about this equity, they would have ensured that not a single ethnic group of people complain that we are being left out, that we are being treated as guests. What transpired during the launch of the BBI, to me, was utter discrimination.
What transpired
You know,
that made
because
you say
see,
this?
I'll put it this way. Let me put it this way. If we are talking about, and I love what my colleague in the Senate, Senator Orengo said. He said that he has never felt Kenya in one roof like the way he felt that day. But the problem was that the people who even spoke did not represent Kenya. Kenya is a community of 44 different ethnic groups. You know, why didn't we see that? Why do we see...
You wanted to have 44 people speaking.
You know what? Like I said, Eric, we cannot have equity.
Yes.
But we cannot have equality, but we can have some form of equity. You cannot have 3 people from one ethnic groups, another 3 people from another ethnic groups representing this so-called Kenya. Why didn't they have somebody from a minority group talking?
What's a minority group?
Minority group are people like us, the Maasais. Okay, we bring billions of dollars into this country just because of our name. That's number one. Why didn't they have a Turkana speaking? Turkana is now bringing billions, or it has got the potential of bringing billions of dollars into this country. And there are people who have always felt like they don't belong to Kenya. You know, the only reason why someone like, what's his name? Even Duale spoke is because of his position. You know, we cannot have people from one region, Mount Kenya, and Western Kenya speak. and Eastern Kenya. The reason why people like Kalonzo Musyoka spoke is because of he was part of NASA. So really, in my view, even from what my colleague in the Senate spoke about recently in one of the locals television stations, saying that there is this team of experts which has already been chosen. My question is this BBI being run by a small clique so they decide these are the people we're going to have in the, we're talking about inclusivity here.
May I ask a question,
Yes.
Mheshimiwa?
Yes,
Do you have issues with the content of the messaging that was that we heard at the launch of the BBI, or is it the optics?
I think I have an issue with both, because when you look at the content, it does not represent our views.
So are you saying that people from these minority groups did not participate
consulted?
in this gathering of data or
I
information?
like
that
your
formed?
question. We did, but
Yes.
what came out does not represent that.
Meaning what they reported as having come out from those regions is not what was actually
It is not
said.
what was said.
Everybody's
If you open that
views,
page,
Senator,
I keep
everybody's
saying,
views were not included. In fact, we even had the Secretary
I'm
General of
glad you said
ODM,
that.
Secretary General of your own party said some of what the party presented is actually not contained in the BBI report.
So why bring in a report that doesn't take in
It's about
issues?
harmonization.
No, it's
of-
not
of-
about
of- of
harmonization.
views.
Eric,
And
I can
seeing
tell you what it
what
is.
carries the day as well. How many more people have gone with this certain view than yours?
You know what?
must
I
agree to
like
that.
your line of arguments. Present it to us. Show it to us. Tell us we went to 47 counties. Remember, Eric, in fact, that day when I gave my views, I had a bill that I had to move in the afternoon. And I realized that if I drive to Narok, because these guys went to Narok for 1 day, and they listened to the people for 1 day. For how many hours? 6 hours. 6 hours is when they sat there and listened. So I did my calculation and I said, look, I must give my views. This is the only opportunity that I have. If I drive down to Narok, because of our corruption, we've not been able to finish a faster road to Narok. We've got this one route that goes to Naivasha, where every time I spend like 6 or 7 hours stuck in my Mahiu.
Just going down the
Just going down the escarpment. So what did I do? I decided to go into my savings, and I hired a chopper to go to Narok, so that I can be able to do my civic duty. I can be able to represent, and then also come back and move my bill in the Senate in that afternoon, because I didn't want it to lapse. I went there. My brother, I read the BBI report. It never talked about the issues of land rights for the Maasais. Okay? Not even Maasais, for Kenyans, the issues of land rights. It didn't talk about that. Then what are we doing? Why do we keep on saying we care about this group of people, we care about this group of people?
How many points did you present when you made your presentation?
I spoke for half an hour.
And how many points did you have? There was, of course, the issue
I
just said,
I
land rights.
dealt with the issues of 9 issues. The 9 I submitted on the 9 points that BBI was. I was very specific on each
On
and
the
every
TOR.
point on what my views are as the elected leader of the Maasais. I was speaking on my behalf and on behalf of my people, because they sent me to the Senate to be able to represent their views. I was shocked. In fact, when I read the report, what came to mind was a Ndongo report, number one, the TJRC report. Okay, nothing is implemented. In fact, what the report did very effectively was to remind us Kenyans of everything that ails us. Okay? It talked about women being given this, women being given this. It talks about the problem. In fact, if you read the language, sometimes you might even ask yourself, who is this person writing this? I mean, seriously, some of the words used were so casual. I wish I had the report here. I'd read for you some words which were used there. They were so casual. If you talk about the views of the 47 counties, I'm so glad we have a researcher in the house. When you carry out research, before you come out and give your recommendation, you must give your observations. And you say, 47 counties, Nairobi County, on the 9 issues, this and this and this is what we observed. In Narok County, this and this and this is what we observed.
Right.
These are our recommendations as per what we observed on all these counties. We do not have that for us to be able to come up with an educated,
So what you're saying
decision
is
in
what-
terms of moving.
because,
Finally,
because we can't see what they gathered from across the county, we are not sure how they arrived at the final report.
yes, that's number one.
Unlike what happened, for example, with the committee of experts and the Guy Commission,
Yes.
where we have the data
We have the data
from the ground.
Yes.
So this is one of the faults that you have.
That's one.
Uh-huh.
That's number one. Number two, also, and I think I explained this clearly recently in a local television station, is that there was a problem with the disconnect in terms of our generations. I think the three of us here come from one generation. We are what is referred to as a Generation X. My brother here could be a baby boomer. Okay,
See?
we
He is
have,
right.
Say yes.
you know,
Yes, he's right.
Good.
you know, we have,
He's right.
and he comes from the same generation as our president. Our prime minister comes from the generation of traditionalists. About 60% of Kenyans are millennials. None of them were represented. Their views were not represented. You know, I find it very difficult sometimes even to have a discussion with my kids at home because I'm busy here working, maybe amassing some wealth for them, but they don't give a hoot in hell about it. You know, they're like, Dad,
That's
that's
not their
yours.
issue.
You know, we want to do something different. It would have been fair for Kenyans and also for this big generation if they were part and parcel of this BBI initiative. BBI, what do you call it?
But I thought the discussions around the BBI were open to everyone. Or
We-
were they deliberately excluded from these discussions?
Can I tell you something?
Before you do that, Senator, and a joiner to that question, because I mean, we asked these questions at that time, and we were told that yes, there was quite a lot of public participation that took place, going round and round. So at that point, is it something that would have then been raised at that point? Because I mean, now then it's concluded, the report is out, and then it would be seen to be that
No,
you know,
it isn't
No, no, no.
It's not concluded.
well, it's not
No, no,
concluded.
no,
but I
let's
mean,
put it this way.
if one stage of it is done, you know, one stage has been completed, isn't it? So then it seems that now what is being raised obviously is not going to be revisited.
You know, both of you have asked a very good question, and I'm going to try and bring it together. Number one, where I fault the appointment of the people who were to serve as the board. What are they called?
The task force.
The task force. First of all, it doesn't matter what views the millennials present. The task force members, if they are not made up of a millennial, when they retreat to go and write their report,
The millennials are not represented.
they are not represented. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we're in a very different era. Okay, I respect our people very well. I respect our elders very well. I have a lot of respect for them. But take it from me, life is not what it used to be when they were growing up. Things are different.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. And in fact, if you take my brother now to the shopping mall and you take a millennial, he will end up sitting down. The millennial will walk the whole day. You know, he'll probably end up buying maybe 2 or 3 suits. The millennial will probably come back with maybe a pair of headphones.
Only.
Yeah. Or maybe they'll come back with a big bag of clothes because things are different. So really, you cannot tell us that you want to leave this world a better place than you found it. Yet, there's a huge disconnect.
So are we telling a different story? Are we giving out a different narrative? Because if you look at the BBI and what it was all about inclusivity and cohesion.
It's not inclusive.
So we're saying
let
actually
me
we're
ask-
saying
let
it
me
is
ask
the
a more
opposite. It
specific
is actually
question.
not the
Are you
case.
saying the BBI is window dressing?
I wouldn't use that word. What I would say is this: it is a high time that all Kenyans should critique it
Ask
thoroughly.
questions.
Okay, apply the parity principle, the 80-20 rule. You know, if they agree with it, I think that's what the framers of the constitution argued that they did for the current constitution, which I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just a matter of implementation. Currently, Kenyans should not just take what they're given. They should scrutinize it and say, how is this going to better this country when I'm not there? It is not about me. It's not about Olekena. It is about the future generation. So the question is, ask yourself, where do you come from? You know, I come from a people who have been, stigmatized, extremist measures in terms of their culture. Last week, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I visited the Narok prisons. And what I saw there, nearly made me cry. There was a woman who is around 89 years old, a man who is around maybe 90 years old, or maybe the other way around. You know, they're both blind. They were arrested because one of their in-laws sent them their daughter to come and help them fetch water, but it was interpreted as if it was forced marriage. That now this girl was being sent for this blind 90-year-old man to marry. You know, you know, that to me just showed that we are talking so much about a modern culture, yet what is moving this country forward is a traditionalist. Is a traditional culture. Look at the BBI, the
What
people
is the
who are set
traditional
up.
culture in that case?
The traditional culture is this. You know, in my community, the Maasai, which I think, Eric, you're quite familiar, is that there's nothing wrong with an elder or a father sending their daughter or their son to help their in-laws in need. But the way it was interpreted.
But that help, brother, is not about marriage.
No, it wasn't about marriage.
It's not going to end up in
You
marriage.
know,
at
because
any
if it
point.
was marriage, why arrest the 89-year-old woman? What part is she going to play in terms of that marriage?
Well, let me then ask this question, because when one talks of marriage of underage girls, a lot of the information that hits the media seems to come from the community and communities, pastoral communities that you come from. Comment about it.
I'll tell you something. I have rescued and educated over 25,000 girls.
Rescued from
forced marriages, from let's go
FGM possibly.
Okay. I set a period of 10 years for me to do that work, and after 10 years, I quit, and that's what I did. I did it from 2005, from 2000 to which year?
To 2010.
2010. And the reason why I stopped is because I was doing it out of my heart, and I really cared about the people that I was doing. But then this thing became commercialized. So what is happening now is that, to answer your question, is that some people are taking advantage of the dollars which are coming from foreign countries or from human rights groups. You know? And instead of doing what is right, they continue fueling this theory that so long as you send a child...
Essentially rent-seeking.
They're rent-seeking, period. Okay? And that's why I stopped, because I was literally... There was a time I stayed at the Hilton Hotel for literally 2 months. And the reason why I stayed there is because I had an office. You know, I was not sleeping. I was driving every single day to villages to pick girls who had been sent home because they could not pay for school fees and take them to schools. But then after that, I realized that even the people who were coming for me to support them, they had enough money.
They're also in business.
They are in business. So even more, seriously, you know. But listen, we cannot, and to end this discussion of the BBI, if I can tell you this, given that now it's been given another leaf, I think it's about time that this committee of experts or the task force to really sit down and say, what are these critics saying about this?
So they should
if
be
we
listening
care
to people.
So they should be
about,
listening to
they should be
people.
listening to us.
They should be going around the country. Now they're the ones who should
Don't
be going
rush
around
it.
the country.
Don't rush it. Don't put a deadline. Okay, if you come to Narok has six constituencies. If you are spending money because you are given money to spend, find a way to be able to get a representation of people to come in there and sit down with them and say, this is the report we have. These are the views we collected from Narok on how you want BBI to become inclusive. This is the report we came out with. We realized that maybe, where can you tell us, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
Let's correct it. Because I'm all about inclusivity. I'm all about equity. But let's not preach water and drink wine.
Right.
We're still talking about equity and what you're calling inequality in the society. Well, we have in the studio this morning on the hot seat Narok Senator Ledama Olekina. He's come out guns blazing. He's called the BBI nonsense. He has also said the National Assembly is inept. He has not told us anything about the Senate. We'll ask him what he thinks about the Senate, the other members of the Senate, apart from the Honorable Senator from Narok, and then we'll also tell him what we think about the Senator from Narok, probably, by allowing you to call in on 0719-012-600. It's 22 minutes past 8 o'clock. The conversation continues. Of course, you can post your comments as we progress with the discussions on our social media platforms. Spice FM KE Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter. Good morning.
.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Now, Senator, the way you've been talking lately, of course, you've been raising the issue. And in fact, you even brought it up this morning. You've talked about appointments to public service. You've talked about representation of the people and the communities around the country and saying we have 44 communities in the country. Why don't we feel like all the 44 are represented? And then when you talk about your own people of Narok County, you speak of them as if they are just one community. Why is that? I mean, I'm sure there are more than there's more than one community in Narok County.
Represented, yeah.
Represented by their senator.
Narok County has got almost all the 40, let's say, not 44, but probably 42 ethnic groups.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is welcome to Narok. What I do not welcome, and I'll be very blunt about this, is taking advantage of a community. One of my biggest
What do you mean? What do you mean by taking advantage?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes.
One of my biggest pet peeves is where people sit down together. They conspire to deprive a community its wealth. We are people who are very poor and very welcoming. We used to be very rich, but because of the destruction of our environment, we are now very, very poor.
The destruction of this environment, was it something that was created, or is it something that
It's
happened
man-made.
naturally?
It's
Can you give us
man-made.
insights into that?
Yeah.
Because what we're looking at then is basically we're saying that there was man-made destruction to deliberately take wealth out of the hands of the people of Narok.
Conspiratorial.
Yeah, essentially, that's what
and the
they're
Maasai
saying.
Some
community
of
were not
it,
involved.
I'll put it this way. No, the Maasai were involved. The Maasai are involved. I'm not saying they're not involved.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenge we have is that when you have an overall government policy that tends to widen the gap between the rich and the poorer becomes poorer. Narok was a very rich county, extremely rich. If you look at the Mau Forest, beautiful. But we ourselves, some of us, the Maasais, conspired with other people who were in the former government of Moi, and they started destroying the forest. They started logging, heavy logging, like what is happening in the rainforest. That brought in poverty in Narok. When that brought poverty in Narok, when you look at the size of cows that the Maasais had, it started sort of like shrinking. Instead of having like 1,000 cows now, because you don't have any more land to graze them on or any more vegetation, you start now selling to a point where you only have 10 or 20. Then now you are left with land. Remember, Maasai land ownership came in as a result of group ranches.
Yep.
When you subdivide these group ranches, there's the issue of zoning. It is quite silent. But this is one of the things that has impoverished the Maasai community now. You come to where we subdivided the land, like where I come from, Olompokishi Group Ranch. Every member got about anywhere between 50 and 100 acres. That was subdivided as agricultural land. But then people come in to buy that land. And what do? Gerrymandering. What do? They move in populations there illegally. They subdivide that land, and instead of seeking approval from the authorities, They now say plots. A piece of land which was sold for 20,000 shillings an acre because it was agricultural is now subdivided. 1 acre is divided into 6 or 8 plots, each one sold at 300,000 shillings. The Maasai can no longer live there.
So
Now, let me finish. The reason why we subdivided the land and gave about 40, 50 acres per person is because we were very careful in trying to understand what are the resources which are there which will be able to support these 20 or 30 acres of land. Our river streams, okay, cannot be able to support a population of about 1,000 people in an area. They can support 100 people. But now, what you're doing is that you're increasing the population in the area, you're destroying the environment. The rivers, people start doing irrigation along the rivers. Everyone who buys a piece of land next to the river, start irrigating in that piece of land. Then the people downstream end up, their cows dying, they end up not having water, then it brings in conflict.
So what's your beef here?
My beef is number one, the people who are coming there, they're not coming there with good intentions. They're coming there to buy land cheap, 20,000 shillings an acre, subdivide it, sell it at 100 or 200,000 shillings a plot.
How is that a bad intention?
Okay, it is a bad intention because if you want it to be a good intention, number one, don't buy it cheap, sell it expensive. That's number one. Number two, follow the due process of the law.
So are they going against the law by doing this?
Yes, they're breaching the law.
They're breaching the law.
They're
So-
breaching the law
so the-
because there's something called a change of user.
So
Where
the land,
if
the
you
land is
take the
earmarked as
land,
agricultural land.
It is agricultural land.
Then,
why then don't we see any kind of action being taken by the same law?
The reason why we don't see is because of what we talked about, people not understanding what the law says. People not bothering, legislators not bothering to demystify.
But there's a public official somewhere.
That public official is in the pocket
appended
of
a
those
signature.
people.
And there's a land board somewhere. There's a land committee somewhere.
I agree.
So all these things, as you're talking about, let's start from at the point where there's a 50-acre piece of land.
Yes.
And it's owned, of course, by somebody who's a member of the group ranch. So let's say
Yes.
this is a Maasai elder.
Yes.
Sells this land to somebody who has come in. And you're saying that these are people who are coming in.
Yes.
So it's not selling to a neighbor. So
No.
it's selling to somebody who has come in.
Yes.
The person who's come in is basically looking for land.
Yes.
And for whatever
It's called
reason.
willing buyer,
Willing
willing
buyer,
seller.
willing
I agree
seller.
with you.
And the land is earmarked for agriculture,
Yes, I
so
agree
you
with
cut
you.
off 10 acres and sell to this person. The reason why they decide they want to sell, they don't necessarily want to sell it as commercial. They're selling as
Agricultural land.
agricultural land.
Yes.
So still selling these 10 acres and subdividing it still as agricultural land.
Yes.
At the point where you want to convert this into commercial, you go and seek consent. Approval from authorities. If those authorities are giving you the approval, why do you have beef with a person who is actually bought the land and selling and not the government?
Because the approval is not only sought from the approving authorities, it is sought from your neighbors. You've
Yes.
got to be able to put up a notice there and say, we intend. There's something called a caveat emptor.
Yep.
We intend to change the use of this property from agricultural to commercial. That's number one. Agricultural land is on a lease, is on a freehold. Commercial properties or commercial land is on leasehold. So you need to go through that. And let me tell you what I'm doing now. I am doing a serious audit of all the land that has been sold in Narok as agricultural land and converted into commercial land because the people are suffering. Even the people who are buying that land are not getting the services that they require. They are not getting electricity there, you know. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but this is something we should do it together so that we can be able to ensure that the people downstream don't suffer. And you will find that because of the geographical setup of the area, a lot of people who have the beautiful land is normally uphill.
Yep.
Downhill, it's trash. It's nothing. You know?
It's not as good as up there.
No, it is not. So I think it's about time now that we need to sit down and really come up with serious government policy. And I hope that the government is listening. Because the problem we have is not the people. It's not the people who are coming up with those problems. It is the government. It is those people, those authority people, those people in, what do you call it? The land control board.
In the land control
okay?
boards.
The people in the county governments.
Yep.
Okay? we really need to be disciplined. Discipline is what we lack in this country. You know, if today Senator Olekina wants to buy a piece of land, you know, I go, and because I'm a senator, what do? I seek for special land board consent. You know, that land board consent is done. Special.
You get your...
Olekina tomorrow gets his piece of land. And then I come back. I bought it with the intention of subdividing it into 100 plots.
If I hear you correctly, Mheshimiwa, you are advocating for protecting your community.
I must do that.
Yes.
But I'm also advocating for protecting Kenyans. I have no problem with you coming to buy land there.
Okay.
But buy land there and come in and reach that neighborhood.
And be clear about your
and
intentions.
be clear about
is
your
what you're
interest.
saying.
Not
so you're saying
actually,
the declaration of
Yes.
interest and intention is something that
you
you
must
see
declare.
I made a
is
statement,
pivotal to this.
and I was actually going to add a little beef to it. Why is it not possible for the very thing that you're saying to be stated upfront for people who actually intend to buy land? Why do I say this?
Let me answer that, please.
Yes.
Allow me to answer that. You know, there is a very big gap between, or rather, there is a thin line between the modern world and the traditional land, or world. A Maasai man who is my neighbor, who has never gone to school, has no clue about land use policy. He has no clue. Very few of them have. Very few of them have. In fact, the generation that has that, part of them are the ones who went to school are the traditionalists and a few baby boomers. Okay? And some of them might be so desperate that they just want money to be able to offset their bills that they would not say, now I'm selling you this piece of land.
Tell me why you want to buy it.
Tell me why you want to buy it.
All right.
Or these are the conditions of you buying it.
Is it possible that also the person who's coming to buy is in the same bus?
True.
That they
Very
are not
possible.
aware about
They're
all
not
these
aware
things, the
about
land
this.
policies and all. They just see what's happening around the country, that you buy land, you sell, you subdivide land, you
Absolutely.
sell.
Absolutely.
You buy land, you bring in your people, you live in that land, and then you sell off a bit of that land to your neighbors. Right?
It's
So
very,
this
very,
the
very
issue
true.
here is about awareness, like I hear you saying. It's about people being made aware that this is how we should continue living. So I'm going back to that point of, yes, you're saying you need to protect your community, but why not just say you need to protect your constituents? Because this person who's
My
come to buy
community
from,
is my constituents.
this person who's come to buy from
The fact that my dear sister comes from Nigeria, the moment she becomes my neighbor,
She's
she
your-
becomes my community. Okay?
I see.
So I'm not looking at her now as a Nigerian. I will look at her as my sister, my community. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay. Good point. We have Senator Ledama Olekina in the studio this morning. We will open up the phone lines at about 8:45, 0719 012 600. But in the meantime, let's take a look at what's happening on the roads and then continue the conversation with the good senator. Good morning.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
All right, folks, let's see how things have changed or remained the same. There seems to be some madness. The Muthangari, Gitanga, and Othaya Gitanga junctions around Awings, Kodek, Olodume junction as well. Yes, schools are open, and the traffic that is there keeps you right around that area for about 45 minutes. Before then, you now either need to join going to Westlands or join getting onto Ngong Road. So it's quite an issue this morning, and everybody's asking questions. How are we going to get out? Well, there are some police trying to conduct traffic around the Gitanga Road area, so hopefully that will open up soon. Thika Road is, of course, giving us some problems this morning right around Allsops and then leading into the city centre. That'll open up in a short while. Outer Ring, Juja exit also is chock-a-blocked right about now. The southern bypass, not so bad as an alternative to get off of Mombasa Road, which is bumper to bumper this morning. All right, apart from that, everything else seems to be okay. Coming off of Langata Road, not too much problem. A little bit of traffic at the roundabout before you join Bagathi Way or on towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. It looks good in the city this morning. People are going to get where they're going eventually. You see something out of the ordinary, do let us know. The number to call is 0719 012 600 or tweet us, Spice FM KE.
96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kenya's biggest conversation every weekday, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. In the room this morning, Eric Latif, CT Muga Nduoko. On the hot seat is Narok Senator Ledama Olekina, who we've been talking to him, of course, over the last couple of weeks on the phone. He calls in and contributes to our discussions. And we told him, please come so we can have a full hour of conversations with you. One of the first times that we spoke with you, Senator, you were raising the issue of the appointment at Kenya Pipeline. Now, of course, you've seen that the matter has gone to court. The new MD who had been appointed has not taken office. The acting MD's tenure has expired. Are you the one who took this case to court like you had promised?
We've got two cases in court. One of them, my case, we're still doing discoveries. Because whenever you take a matter to court, you've got to be able to present your evidence in a sound manner, because the judge will make a determination based on the evidence that you submit. Our matter should be filed this coming week because we are almost through with our discoveries. That's number one. Number two, there is another case which was filed by Okiya Omtata, and I'm sure it's been supported by a few people. And we might find a way to bring the two cases together. We are looking at two different issues in terms of the cases. There is the issue of inclusivity. There is the issue of conflict of interest. You know, my case is looking at the issue of, one, inclusivity, and also, to some extent, the issue of conflict of interest. I may not want to speak a lot about the facts that we intend to present to court because we don't want to be prejudiced. So we'll shave that to the point where we have the matter in court. But this is a matter that we will not allow to rest.
You'll push it to the logical conclusion.
To the logical conclusion.
Now let's talk about the Senate, because the other time we were talking about how the senators are behaving. Now, of course, this is 7 years of experiencing the Senate.
What do you mean how senators are behaving? Elaborate.
The last time we called you, it was asking you about the two senators and
how they were going to
represent.
We talked about my colleagues.
How they were representing Governor Mike Sonko as lawyers. And of course, we'll discuss about that shortly. But now, let's talk about the two houses of parliament. We have the National Assembly, which we are used to. Of course, those of us in this generation, CT Muga knows about the other time when there were two houses of parliament. Now we are back to those two.
Looks like you want to ask about World War II.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. At this point,
I wasn't alive then. Yes.
Who killed Hitler? All right. The two houses of parliament.
Was he ever killed?
There you go.
You know, I think he probably died in Argentina.
Probably.
You need to read a book called Grey Wolf by my good friend Jared Williams. Then you might have a different...
some conspiracy theory that comes up there. Yeah. The Senate. Is it important? Do we need a Senate in this country?
Absolutely.
Looking at, we called it the Nyumba ya Wazee. In fact, the person who was calling it Nyumba ya Wazee was the previous, members of the National Assembly. They were saying this, looking at them, is as people who have served in this National Assembly for long.
The Senate is moribund.
The question I
don't get offended. It's not about age.
No, age, if you remain alive, you might actually get to my age. So that's not really a problem.
If I remain, I will get to the age.
Well,
what do you mean by that?
You actually can't get older if you're dead. So you actually
you need to remain alive when you age.
So you need to be alive. So yes, I represent aspiration and I represent a future for you, Eric.
Thank you.
What I want to ask is, when we were formulating this new constitution, taking into consideration the fact that countries where you have a Senate, which is often referred to as the upper house, they have distinct powers that guarantee that there are certain things that they only can do over and above ensuring that the lower house doesn't just go around doing what they do.
Yes.
How on earth did we get to the point where a constitution was passed and the Senate was rendered almost toothless?
That's where I am.
I'll tell you.
And that's why I was judging that. I was actually basing that question on the fact that currently what we have is a Senate that is not an upper house, that does not have many things that it can do in terms of oversighting the lower house. So you're not an upper house.
I'll put it this way. We are indeed the upper house. And I can tell you two two times or two occasions that really made the president understand that the Senate is indeed the upper house. Division of revenue bill, when we stalled it. The second occasion, which is coming up in March this year, is a formula on shareable revenue. The previous one was on the issue of the elections law, which in fact some people had to be lifted to come and vote for it. Some people put off their phones and disappeared. And they were called or asked, "Where the hell are you?" I'm here. They send a chopper to pick them up so that they can come and vote. The problem, going back to Muga, the problem is that, and this is what I'm afraid will happen with the BBI, is that when we are sitting down and talking about what we want Kenya to look like for the future generation, when the room heats up so fast, the first thing, the only thing that we end up focusing on is on either a presidential or a parliamentary system. We now care so much about the president, and we don't give a hoot in hell about everything else that supports that presidency. This is where I see BBI heading. We're not talking about the issue of making the Senate the true upper house, where you either give it original jurisdictions on legislation, meaning you draft a piece of legislation, you go through it. Once you're satisfied that it has gone through the first, second, third reading, it has been voted for by at least 24 delegations, because we vote on delegations. We have 47 delegations. Narok County is one delegation. Narok Senator has that vote. My vote is very, very important. Nominated senators don't add up anything, really, to tell the truth.
In fact, they don't influence you at all.
They don't influence at all. At the end of the day, it is that delegation, the senator who has been elected by the people. If we give the Senate that power to be able to draft legislation, debate the legislation, and then send it directly to the president for it to be assented into law, then we will say we've given it the power that it should have to become the upper house. Currently, when you look at Article 110 of the Constitution, it is highly misinterpreted by the lower house in terms of the money bills. And if there are advisories from the Supreme Court, opinions that they say, like, it doesn't matter which bill you look at.
Explain it for people who may not understand exactly how this money bills process goes.
You see, the National Assembly, the National Assembly deals with the budget.
Yep.
Okay, and when you look at everything to do with money, when they come up with the budget, they allocate money to different sectors. When you come up with a piece of legislation that now requires money to be allocated, it has to originate from the National Assembly. Because they're the ones who are looking at the issue of the budget. They're the ones who have all the money. For us, we concentrate on the issues of the county governments. We have something called the CARA, County Revenue Allocation Bill, which once we have the division of revenue, once the money has been divided between the two arms, the two levels of government, which is the national government and the county government, we now take the portion that has been allocated to us using a formula given to us by the constitutional body, Commission of Revenue Allocation. We now then allocate that money based on different parameters. That is what we are tasked.
That's your job.
That is our job as a Senate. Now, the importance of the Senate is really to ensure accountability, a fiduciary responsibility. We are sending a lot of money to the counties. We want to ensure that this money is utilized properly. The problem we have currently is that the money which is sent to the national government, the National Assembly does not do their job to ensure that that money is equally utilized properly. And that is why you end up seeing there are so many supplementary budgets to try and correct where money has been borrowed. Why do you allocate money
that don't have
to a third studio that you don't have. And then later you realize that you've spent all the money in this one studio. So now you do a supplementary to remove the money that you had allocated to the other one so that you can be able to fund your operation.
These are the questions we ask, Senator, and sometimes we are left at a,
so
we're at a loss
you know,
because we also don't understand how this works.
Kenyans need to understand this, that the Senate does a very, very important job. One, it oversights on the counties. Number two, it protects the interest of those counties. In the case of Mike Sonko, because it's important for us to talk about it, I'm one of those who still believe that Mike Sonko is still the governor of Nairobi County. And Mike Sonko is still innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. We have the courts which are tasked with that duty of going through the evidence presented by the DPP. Do I support that you should step aside when you've been charged with a matter of corruption? Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. But what we need to do, we need to amend the Ethics and Anti-Corruptions Act.
So that
what can happen?
Currently, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act discriminate between a public officer and a state officer. Mm-hmm. Because a public officer is appointed by the president. The appointing authority has got the power to tell them, you
step aside.
Have been charged with corruption, step aside. Mm. A state officer is elected by the people. Mike Sonko was elected by 850,000 people. Mm. Okay? It is wrong for one person to tell him to step aside. If we agree, and I'm from the school of thought that believes that if the moment you are charged with corruption, and there is substantive evidence, you should step aside. But what should you do? Number one, if we have a law that discriminates it, it behooves us, members of parliament, and members of parliament include senators and members of the National Assembly. Mm. Because to be honest with you, a member, and if you ask my brother here, he will tell you an MP is a person who is in the law house. An MP is also a senator. So it is just that he's a member of the National Assembly, he's a member of the Senate. Because if you look at my card, it says Ledama Olekina, Senator Ledama Olekina, MP.
So that it just
so there are two issues here for me to demystify it. We must put it in line with the law. We always say the law is an
What should the law say? Just getting
the law. If we all agree with the DPP, if we all agree with the rule of justice,
the principle of stepping aside.
Actually, if we all agree with the principle of a fiduciary responsibility, then let us amend the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act and clearly state that the moment you are sent to court and there is allegation of misappropriations of funds, these are the steps which should take place in terms of you stepping aside. In the case of Nairobi, the first thing which should have happened is that now that you've been accused of corruption and you've been taken to court, first of all, it was wrong for Mike Sonko to be arrested the way he was arrested.
How should he have been arrested? That would have been a better show of justice per se.
Call him. Tell him you need to appear here. Come to DCI.
He had been prison. He had
been going. He had been going. It is all drama. It is ridiculous. It is all drama.
He had answered questions.
You know? So you come in and you're told now you're under arrest. You know, but you don't. So that's about. Let me go back to the issue.
So you're saying don't follow him across the country and make an arrest.
Don't follow him across the country. No, don't. Don't use a lot of public resources to go. Just call the guy and say, look, summon the guy. Appear here.
We'll give you 24 hours.
We'll give you 24 hours to
the nearest police station.
To the nearest police station. Then if he fails to do that, then by all means, declare him a fugitive. And, and go after him. So I don't want to lose this point.
Yes.
So number one, amend the act. That's very clear. So that it is equal. A state officer and a public officer, they all share the same
fiduciary
responsibility.
Charge, step aside.
Step aside. So in the case of Mike Sonko, what you do is that once he's been charged, yes, he steps aside, but there is a clear process of who takes over. In fact, Article 189 of the Constitution talks about cooperations between the two levels of government.
Yeah.
It is wrong for certain people, including certain governors, to presume that the president can appoint somebody to go there and stand on for Mike Sonko. It is wrong for the Jubilee Party to believe that they can appoint somebody to go there and become the acting governor. It is wrong. It is not sound in law. You know, if you have a piece of legislation, if you have the constitution, follow it to the letter. You cannot. Just the fact that I was sponsored by ODM, if today I'm charged and I'm taken to court, ODM has no legal, moral or legal basis to say we are now appointing so-and-so to be the acting senator. They can't.
Because they didn't appoint you.
They didn't elect me. I was elected by the people.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
let us make it correct. Let us amend the act so that it is proper. Number one.
Number two.
Number two, we have the issue of the deputy governor. I am already in court. In fact, my hearing is on the 20th. I took the matter to court because I strongly believe that these other arms of governments, which are part of, or like the national government, like Treasury, the Auditor General, and also the Control of Budget, should recognize, and also the members of the CEC, the CECs in the counties must recognize the powers of the deputy governor. Okay? But now, if you look at Kiambu and you look at Samburu, what is happening in those two counties is that the CECs don't care about the deputy governor.
You can't fire me anyway.
You can't fire. That's true. I cannot fire you. But
I should respect
you know,
your the
you must
authority of your
respect,
office.
you must respect the authority because Article 175, I think, of the Constitution is very clear on when the governor is absent, who takes over. 179, sorry, 179. Who acts? Okay? So you cannot interpret it. I had a big issue with my colleague, the deputy speaker, when he interpreted it absent as being, he brought in the word objectivity. You know, objectively absent. You can't. Absent is absent. Black is black. You're not there by the fact that you've been sent to court. But you see what he was guarding against, and this is where I normally say, our own personal interest should not supersede the interest of the nation.
Unfortunately,
You know?
that is what the sentiment is, Senator.
And it is
then
wrong.
A lot of times,
and I
the
don't
sentiment-
agree with it.
A lot of times, the sentiment coming from the people is that, legislators, people in positions of leadership are going to protect themselves,
Very
and that
true.
personal interest
Very true.
overrides the interests of the people whom actually should be the ones in positions of
Very
being
true. I
protected.
agree with you.
But this is the thing, and it seems like in cases like this that you all will do everything you can to protect one another as opposed to
I
the
don't
people.
believe that. I don't believe that. I come from a different school of thoughts. You know, I'll call black black when it is black, and white when it is white, regardless of the consequences. So I think, but at the same time, all is not lost. I think there is a crop of young legislators who are now coming up and thinking and saying, "Listen, guys, we need to do what is right." You know.
Mutula Kilonzo Jr. I consider Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
He's a fine
legislator.
gentleman.
I
He's,
consider
you know,
Kipchumba Murkomen a young legislator.
Yes.
I don't know how many others you're talking about. Ledama Olekina and others. Well,
no, go ahead. I know where you're going with this.
It's
Right.
late
Go
when
on.
you tell me that there's a new batch of,
Who are doing things differently.
younger legislators who are doing things differently, and then we still see them doing things the other way around.
Define
And
young.
age.
It's not age. It is young in the practice.
Young in practice.
Yes.
Young
he
in
could
school of
have.
thought.
He could come in, and
the
he's
first
probably
time.
older than me, and then, but he would be new.
Inexperienced.
He would be new.
I've actually been given an honorary status of
There you
of
go.
youth.
But
You're
are
a
they,
young.
Yeah,
even
you
if
know,
they're young
and
in
which is good.
practice, even
You know,
if they-
because you can be young in practice and young in age. You can be young in age, but you can be a sycophant.
But are they doing things
Okay.
differently? And I think that's the point that Eric was
And
bringing
I think,
up. is that
no.
we-
I think the thing is, I'll put it this way. I believe, and I remember Tupac Shakur for saying this. You know, we ride together, we die together. You know, was it Tupac Shakur or who
Is
was
that
it?
the motto?
You
Is
know.
that the motto
No.
amongst the senators, for
Ride or die.
example?
No, I'll put it this. You know, if we are bad boys, we are bad boys for life.
Yeah.
You know, because what it is that for me, I'm an extremist when it comes to freedom.
That was a
and
biggie,
liberty.
actually, then.
You know, for me, I am. You know, and this year I have clearly stated, very clearly, that I will be a radical for the truth. regardless.
You'll push the envelope.
I will push the envelope.
I know you're going to go into the hour, so I will not raise
about 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes.
You can ask it, then you can come and respond.
Let me ask the question, Mheshimiwa. I had begun a statement by saying that you present yourself as a very ardent supporter of your community and the people in your community.
Yes.
But this support has often lent itself to criticism that you are anti certain people within your community. Again, what do you say?
I'll put it this way. My community is everyone who subscribes to equality, equity. Everyone who comes in, I have qualified my sentiments and my interpretation of my community by inviting my dear sister here from Nigeria. She comes in, she lives there. She makes sure that
buys some 5 acres from you.
Buys 5 acres from me, use it as agricultural land. Okay? Because she cares about the person downstream. Okay? That's number one. Number two, I can never take away the fact that I'm Maasai. And my interest, I have to defend those people who have no idea what this modern world is bringing to them.
Against the backdrop the backdrop of being Kenyan at the end of the day.
I don't know if I'm Kenyan really, because I would be honest with you. Because if Miguna is not Kenyan, if certain people are saying Miguna is Canadian, then you ask yourself, are you Kenyan at the end of the day? I think it appears that in this country you're only Kenyan when you dance a certain tune.
When certain people determine.
No, you are Kenyan. You're Kenyan whether you decide to seek another citizenship
or not.
You are Kenyan by birth. You can either
Kenyan.
be naturalized or you can be born. So really, I think at the end of the day, we all must come to realize that 2020 is going to be a very, very tough year. And I will be pushing certain pieces of legislation, and I hope that we can be able to implement them. I'm going to propose that you, Eric, you, my brother, and you, my sister, save 40% of all your earnings. Okay.
You're also coming for our money.
He hasn't finished what he's saying.
I'm going to save that.
He hasn't finished what he's saying.
I'll let you finish. Let's first take a look at traffic and get into the hour. So the senator will be telling us about the pieces of legislation that he'll be hoping to introduce to the Senate in this coming year. In this year, we're already in the year actually. It's coming up to 9 o'clock. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We have Senator Ledama Ole Kina from Narok County, who's in the studio. He's been with us since 8 o'clock. We'll allow him to stay for about another 10 minutes, and of course we know he's a busy man. We'll let him go. It's 9 o'clock. Good morning. This is the Situation Room.
Better Mombasa Road, I think the early morning traffic has dissipated and everybody now is able to get well on their way into the city. Not so bad at all. End of the week very well. Jogo Road right around the roundabout towards town, also looking good getting into the city. Not many problems there. Things might actually pick up next week, but for now all is well. In industrial area, of course, Enterprise Road has opened after the construction that took place there, so we don't see the spillover to Jogo Road. Everywhere else in the city looks actually fantastic. Things have looked and opened up on Thika Road as well. And yes, everybody in the country is enjoying a happy Friday as far as traffic is concerned. Unless there's something that comes into play, let us know. SpiceFM.k or rather SpiceFMKE 0719-012-600 is the number to call. The horse is gone. All is well. All is good. You get where you're going in good time this Friday morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Narok Senator Ledama Olekina wants us to save 40% of our income. Explain.
Yes, I do. We talk about wanting everybody to have affordable housing. We talk about wanting everyone to have a good healthcare system in this country. But we always get it wrong. The president currently has it wrong in terms of his housing that he wants to build.
Housing fund.
The Big Four agenda is completely wrong because it's not founded in practicality. We need to ask ourselves, and this is why I completely detest the introduction of other taxes. You know, there's always no taxation without representation. There's no reason as to why I should be paying a fuel levy, yet there are potholes on the road. So what we want to do is, and this is not an NSSF. This is completely different because people will argue, and I'm sure my brother will say NSSF has not done this. In fact, what they've done is that they've ended up just buying land and building their own places.
Right.
What I want is that I want Kenyans to be able to have affordable housing. This 40% proposal that I'm making should enable you to be able to afford a mortgage. And the fact that you are working, you have a job, you're contributing 40%, that should be your security in you being given a mortgage. If you look at a country like Singapore, and I want you to read a lot of the theories of Lee Kuan Yew. 75% of Singaporeans live in government housing. 75%. They save 50% of their income. In fact, they contribute 25% and the employer puts in 25%. When you do that, you are also guaranteed affordable healthcare. Our healthcare in this country is pathetic. You were talking about NHIF earlier on, about them coming up with new rules which are bound to really just discriminate against other people. When you save this 40% of your income, you're provided with a mortgage which you can be able to afford. Those houses are built. The government can borrow from this kitty and pay you interest. When you retire, they calculate how much you have in this kitty because you must retire at a certain age. When you get to 60-something, you don't become a burden to the state. You have your money, you're pensionable. You have the money there that you can be able to go and use it. So the reason why I'm pushing for this 40% is to for two main things. One, healthcare, and number two, affordable housing.
Well, if we look at the Big Four agenda, and obviously it's something that the president has been harping on for a while now, and there was a renewed call for this on New Year's Day specifically to say that all those who are included in this process to actually come together to get a little bit more serious about it. And everything we hear the other day with the inclusion of this new tax in terms of patriotism and statehood and nationhood, then we hear about NHIF in line with UHC, which health, of course, is one of the Big Four. And it seems to be the end all and be all for moving this country forward. So are we saying the plans, everything that has been put in place, everybody, all the included parties, etc., it will not work?
It will not work. It will not work. And I'll tell you why it will not work.
Is a puppet show?
Because my brother here already has a house. He will not feel comfortable contributing to a kitty that is providing a house for others. The 40% savings that I'm asking for is so that you, Eric, who probably does not have an apartment in Nairobi that you own, you, my dear sister, who does not have an apartment that you own, maybe you bought one, can be able to get a mortgage, and your security is your savings.
Your security is your savings.
The security is your savings. Muga doesn't need it. He probably has a big mansion in Runda or somewhere.
Voila.
You know,
He
I'm
actually-
not literally.
He actually does have, but
Okay,
well,
no,
that's beside
let
the
me
point.
finish.
It is clear to me that the
You've been
Honorable Mheshimiwa
profiled.
is a prophet.
Okay,
Carry on.
so the reason why this does not work is the way the president and the people who came up with the idea of everybody contributing to that national housing is because you are contributing to it, and it doesn't.
So how different
benefit you
is
directly.
your
Mine is very
fund
different
from
because
what we currently have? the
mine is
president's
very
fund?
different. The only thing that it requires is that you, as a citizen of this country, must own a home. You must own a home. So if you already own a home, you don't have to tap into your savings.
So it's still
to use
voluntary.
it. It's no. It is mandatory to save 40%. We want to make it mandatory for you to save 40%. We want to do away with this issue of fundraising.
Can I tell you?
Regardless of
Can I tell you the
age.
first question that Kenyans are going to ask
Yes,
you?
yes, tell
You're
me.
telling me to take away 40% as it is.
Yes.
What I have, I'm not able to
Yes,
juggle. I'm
yes,
not able
yes,
because
yes.
the cost of living rises every
Yes,
minute.
yes.
If there's not one national disaster, there's another.
Yes.
If there's not one tax, there's another. If there's not one issue, there's another.
Yes.
We entered into the year and school fees have increased.
Yes.
The cost of transportation higher and higher.
Yes.
The cost of food every December rises.
Yes.
Then you're saying take 40%.
40.
Take 40%
Yes.
for a house that
Now, let me
is it
answer.
a pipe dream?
No, let
the
me answer
question
that
then is
question.
how am I going to be able to survive?
To survive on the other
when
issue.
on the 100% I was
I'm
not able to
surviving.
make it.
The reason why you're not able to survive with 100% right now is because of the level of debt that we have. In this case, when you look at countries that have succeeded, you might call it socialism or whatever you want to call it. But when you look at countries that have succeeded in instilling discipline of savings among its citizens, they don't borrow from outside. So the cost of living is down. The reason why we overtax in this country is because we have to pay the SGR, we have to pay the IMF. We want to be in a position where we do not have to borrow from outside. And the money that the government is borrowing from you is paying interest on that money. So your 40% savings will continue generating interest.
So it's a key
now
that the government can dip its hand in.
it can dip its hand in, but it stops borrowing from outside. The reason why we're borrowing, let me tell you why I voted for the raising of the 9 trillion.
Yeah, raising the ceiling.
Raising the ceiling is because when I sat down, and I lived in the US, and there was a period of subprime loans, and where even at that point I couldn't afford a house. I bought a house in Concord, Massachusetts, which was about maybe $600,000. I couldn't afford that, but the money was there, was being given to me. Kenya cannot afford the loans that it's taking from foreign countries. The only way that I survived is when the Obamacare came in, and I was able to do what? To refinance the house with a lower interest rate.
Okay.
So now when I looked at my situation then, and I looked at the situation that this
Kenya
country
has,
is in, then I was convinced. I spoke to Raila about it, and I said, I'm not going to vote for this. I said, I will not vote for this. And then he convinced me and said, listen, the reason why we want to do this is because of two things. One, we have loans that were borrowed at 9% interest. 12% interest. I said, send me the detail. I was sent the list of all those loans. And I was convinced that the moment we raise the debt ceiling, we can now be allowed to refinance.
To borrow cheaper.
No, not to borrow cheaper. To refinance.
Refinance the same.
Get rid of all the commercial loans. Okay? Because you see, the reason why we could not be able to borrow or be able to even to pay is that we've reached the ceiling. So even refinancing it is not possible. So when you raise the debt ceiling, you can now refinance, get rid of the 12% expensive loans and borrow.
Can I tell you the second question that will be asked?
Yes.
Previously, there's been a pot, obviously known as the National Treasury, where money has been gotten basically to run the country.
Yeah.
Now it's been riddled, unfortunately, with corruption. In many cases, time and time again. Infrastructure Project 1, Infrastructure Project 2, we don't see the money. Ghost projects that we don't see. Now you want to tell the people of Kenya to remove money from their pockets and give the government. The speculation will be rife in terms of what will happen with this money based on historical experiences with what has happened with public funds.
History is very important because we learn from it. Moving forward, we introduce the death penalty for corruption. Number 2,
we've often said, come and go and be shot.
Listen, no. We instill discipline. Let me tell you, God willing, when I'm president of this country.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Okay, discipline will be the order of the day.
That was going to be actually the final question of this interview.
In fact, right now, I support the DPP 100% when he talks about the introduction of body cams to the police.
Yep.
I want to introduce a piece of legislation to support him and ensure that, Eric, you're driving your nice car. You have a camera.
There must be cameras on the dashboard.
So that if you decide that you are too important than the person in front of you, that camera can be able to show you and stop you from overlapping. You know, the reason why we have traffic in this country is because we overlap. That's number one. The reason why we have traffic in this country is because the taxman has increased the taxes so high on new vehicles such that everybody is benefiting from dumping from China, from Japan, from all these countries that are dumping their 8-year-old cars to us. Ask yourself, why do we as Kenyan always drive junks? Why do we drive old cars that they're new to us? When we are not human beings?
We deserve better.
Okay, the Ugandans and Tanzanians drive
even worse.
Yes.
I know, because you see, we are well, I mean, this is a bigger economy than theirs. So I think, you know, slowly by slowly.
Yeah.
So when the trade minister, I think Munya, came up and said he wants to reduce the number of years you can import a car to 3. You know, they were gun blazing, saying, well, you don't want us to afford cars. No. Kenyans, listen. What we're going to do is that we are going to reduce that to 2 years. But then what do we do? We do away with taxes. Better taxes. We reduce the taxes. There's really no reason as to why we should be following this formula of your 16%, that is VAT, 25% excise duty,
yes.
all these taxes.
Custom.
And you know, you are saying, I'm buying a vehicle for $10,000. That's a million shillings. Then multiply by 16% VAT. Get the new total. Multiply by 35% value added. What do you call it?
Excise
the excise duty.
Commercial
Multiply by 2.5% IDF. You know, you take the new figure and the new figure to multiply. No! You're killing Kenyans. Okay? In other countries, like Singapore is an example. And the reason why I'm using Singapore as an example is because it's a country that has got nothing. Do you know how they create more land to build houses? They burn their trash so that they can use the ashes to reclaim land from the sea, because they can no longer get sand. Because their neighboring countries have told them, guys, you're taking all our sand. So now they're using an incinerator to reclaim more land. They have got nothing. Yet
they're invading the ocean.
IMF, let me tell you, yeah, you can put it that way. The IMF can now borrow from them.
It's the other way around.
No. The IMF borrows from Singapore.
A country.
I think CT and I like this death penalty thing for corruption.
Yes, we put the death penalty.
CT's eyes lit up when you mentioned that.
You mentioned it. Senator, we thank you very much for joining us this morning. Asante sana for the conversation that we've had. So you've told us that you want to be president in future. How many years? 2022, 27, 32, 37?
From 2027.
Okay.
2027.
Yes.
Okay. Presidential candidate, Senator Ledama Olekina.
But I'm a senator now. So
Yeah,
just
yeah,
call me
yeah,
senator now.
Senator-
Let me walk up. Let me walk towards
the
that.
ladder. Right.
All right. You only have about how many years? 27 minus 20.
7.
I have 7
It's
years.
been a mathematics course
This
today.
has been-
7 is a lucky number.
I'm
I'm the
looking at this-
7th born
I'm
in
looking-
my family.
Yeah, nice.
You know?
Seventh born.
7th born out of 14. From
You may
one
choose
mother.
to stay
That's a
behind
good
because
number.
CT Muga wants to introduce another topic here, which will look at our economic status of a country, employment and unemployment, and how that is affecting us as a society. You may choose to say, "Oh, now here you'll not be answering our questions; you'll be contributing as one of us." All right. This is a situation
I
room.
have
It's
to go
Kenya's
and make
biggest
money.
conversation.
You know, I sell milk, man.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I can actually be supplying you milk.
You should have come with milk.
Next time. Next time.
Next time.
Actually,
All right.
no. Eric's putting
Sample.
it wrongly. Samples.
You'll
Actually,
bring-
samples.
yes.
Yeah,
You pay for the
sample.
samples.
No,
man.
no. You
Then
come
it's
with.
just being a
It's all
sample.
about the
Then
Benjamins.
it's not a sample.
Yes.
It's 9:15. This is the situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We've heard in the studio Senator Ledama Olekina from Narok County. He's told us about a number of things, of course. We know that you've been listening and you've been posting your comments on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook, and Twitter at Spice FM KE. We'll invite you again to come and let's talk about legislation. legislation for this year, I didn't feel like we
It's a
adequately
mature
looked at the issue
debate,
of
and I really like it.
of the Senate and whether the Senate is important. Well, I believe that the Senate is important if
Thank
we
you.
went back to the point where we had a committee of experts report. But the current constitution, the way it is structured, scrap this thing. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. 16
You
minutes
have to
past
get it
9
in
o'clock.
there.
Good morning.
Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. 96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. 96.1 Spice FM, Kisi. Have never sounded so good.
My favorite songs of the 1980s.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Well, it's 19 minutes after 9. Well, we had to take a photo with the senator. Of course, when you have a guest in the studio, we take a photo and then we tell him thank you very much for coming. So we continue the conversation, Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room, broadcasting from Nairobi on 94.4. We are in Mombasa on 87.9. We are in Kisumu 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, 97.7 in Malindi. We live stream the show every morning on Facebook, Spice FM KE. We live stream it as well on YouTube, Spice FM KE. We're also on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke, and Twitter. Now, let's talk about unemployment, the state of our economy, and the state of the people. Sichi Muga.
Kenya came up with a certain policy. It's called the Problem Management Plus, PM Plus. It's supposed to be a program that caters for the years 2015 to 2030, a 15-year period. And this is focused on mental health. And for the government to come up with such a policy, it means that the government had actually become cognizant of the fact that there was an issue that needed addressing, and you needed a plan that would cater for the solutions that would allay this particular situation and give it a nice long period, 15 years. Now, WHO, by their definition, refer to health, just basic health, as something that is that provides complete functions of the physical, mental, and social well-being of a human being. Now, if you take this, then you talk about mental health and the well-being of mental health, then the complete opposite of the definition I've just given is what would come into play. Now, it is also argued by people who understand mental health that it actually determines the overall health of an individual. Essentially, the state of your mind and its well-being is a key determinant as to how the rest of your body feels, whether you function optimally, whether you look at opportunities that are available to you and you can take advantage of it, whether you can make sound decisions about your life and everything around it. That your mind is determined as the one part of your body that actually caters for this. Now, one of the things that people do when they look at mental health, they look at mental health practitioners and they start by talking of psychiatrists. Now, if we look at psychiatrists, one of the things that you will find is that Kenya has something like 100 plus psychiatrists. Now, against a population of 47 million, you are talking about the ratio of being 1 to 470,000. Those aren't good statistics. They don't favor the would-be patient. But with the program and the policy the government has put in place, it is taking care of looking into how this can be cascaded to the level where you have community health workers or volunteers who are trained in basic health and basic mental health care. But what some of the people who have written about this have not considered are people who aren't psychiatrists who are also trained in mental health. You have counseling psychologists. You have clinical psychologists. All these people, many of whom do not even have training at what you may call a degree level, but have ample training at diploma level and adequate knowledge to actually help people, not just by treating them, but ensuring that you actually identify it correctly, and by identifying, choose a path that would ensure that this mental health, as it's envisioned, is actually achieved. It's a problem that we have in Kenya, and the economic and social conditions that we now find ourselves in, unfortunately, puts a very big burden on the mind. And that particular burden is one that we refer to as anxiety. And in many cases, it leads to what we call depression. Heavy terms requiring definition. But the truth of the matter is that this is something that is not on the decrease, it's actually on the increase. You look around you and you look at school children committing suicides. You look at family members actually harming their own children, harming their spouses. These aren't things that were common, but they're now becoming common. And all because of the mental health, or the lack of it thereof, that is fast increasing in this country.
Lack of is actually increasing in this country, and I think we can see that actually it has
Lack of health.
Lack of health or lack of mental health. On a general, and I think you can see that. I mean, just across the board, in every sector that we've looked at, even just today that we've looked at critically, from the headlines that we see, from things that are happening in the country, it is clear and it's evident that is actually it is a situation where it's less than. Some people are able to handle it more. Other people have been. It has burst its banks in terms of what then we're able to do to control it. But yes, definitely there is a general degradation of this state of health. Unfortunately, that is the case, and we see it being manifested in so many different ways. Whether we talk about from people taking other lives, taking their own lives. I mean, every single day. Interestingly enough, over the last 8 days, there has not been a day in media reports that somebody has not taken somebody else's life or tried to take their own. Over 8 days, at least one report. National news. I mean, and it's a worrisome thing. It should be. And it then again points us to the fact that something then needs to be done about it. Because you have a people who are at dis-ease, because that's essentially what disease is. You're void of ease. And then it's manifested in your body. If you have a people or a community or a nation who are essentially not well, then we have major problems.
If you look at world statistics, one of the things that is pointed out when people talk about mental health, they say depression.
Yep.
This is one of the most common illnesses, mental illnesses on earth. Depression. Now, they also say that 20 to 25% of outpatients, people who actually come to seek treatment, 20 to 25% of them happen to actually exhibit some of these signs. Now, if you put that in the context of Kenya, you're talking about almost 12 million people who may be in need of this. Now, the problem with mental health, the moment you mention it, the thing that comes to people's mind is somebody is mad. And when they talk madness, they think of the people they have seen either in the marketplaces or the villages or wherever they come from. People who exhibit signs of having completely lost touch with the reality of everything around them and live more or less in a world of their own. And this is exhibited by the way they dress, the things they eat, or the state of undress, not even dress that they are in. Mental illness, unfortunately, doesn't have to be that dramatic for it to be there, because you don't wake up, you are unhappy, and then you become depressed. No. Certain things have to happen to you over a period of time for you to get to that particular mindset of despondency where the world stops being rosy for you. And all you can see around you is despair. And the concept of hope is so alien that your thoughts are around the dismal, the grey, and the dark. Now, this is something that many people get to, and especially when you find that hope becomes a concept that is completely alien to you. There is nothing you can hope for. Now, there are those who also argue that part of this has to do with expectations, because disappointment leads to some of these things that we're talking about. If something doesn't happen the way you envisioned it would, disappointment comes in.
Of course.
Now, if it's managed, then it's just disappointment and you can think of what else to do. Now, that's the concept of hope. But if that is dashed, then what do you have?
Nothing.
So
Nothing.
let's look at what the government is how the government is approaching this, because the government has also noticed and acknowledged the fact that we have an issue that needs to be addressed with regards to mental health. President Uhuru Kenyatta last year in November directed the Health Ministry to form a task force to look at the mental health status of Kenyans. This task force was established and inaugurated in December, and it's being chaired by psychiatrist Dr. Frank Njenga and other officials of the Ministry of Health. Now, of course, when the president was saying this, he said, I want a report within 90 days, and within 90 days, the cabinet will discuss and see how to allocate resources towards addressing the mental health of our citizenry. Now, City, going by what you're saying is yes, we have an issue here of mental health, but maybe this is symptomatic of other things that are happening in the community.
Ask yourself.
And if I look at what the president and what the government is doing, they're actually coming to look at the symptoms. Basically, maybe Frank Njenga will say, yes, the number of people who have reported, who have gone and reported themselves with cases of mental health, this number, according to, in fact, we even saw those reports. These are the numbers per county, per constituency, around the country, and this is what needs to be done, allocation of resources, establishment of centers, and care and treatment. But we're not dealing with the issues that are leading us there.
This is a thing, and I think that's clearly important, because people arrive at a certain place as a result of other factors, right? And we've seen, interestingly enough, in these stories that we've seen over the last 1 week, all of them have a skew towards some kind of economic problem. There was not enough money. I was expecting this person to be able to fend for my needs and for that of my children, and that did not happen. So it's either problems with money or problems with relationship. Now, in terms of stepping in to deal with problems of relationship, that really doesn't have anything to do with
the economy.
With the economy per se, right? I love this person less because I'm not able to get enough fuel in my tank, kind of thing. I don't think
the relationship is not working because of money.
This is the thing. Okay, you could point it back because a lot of times, again, if you look into they say now the economic factor plays a major role, a pivotal role in the relationship, right? However, if you look at now why a lot of it's talking about I don't have enough. We saw in the beginning of the year when many a Kenyan talked about the fact that this year I hope that the government will be able to work better so that it would enable me to do 1, 2, 3 or 4 other things. I would buy a piece of land. I then will be able to make my business flourish, etc. So it's pointing to the fact of their ability to be able to do something that of course has an economic skew to it. Absolutely necessary to look at those factors that then stops people. The other day we had a gentleman who gambled away 15 million shillings and then threw himself off a building. 15 million shillings. Just the other day, yes. And then threw himself off a building at Adlife. Yes.
Hey, 15 million. Is that not a lot of money?
Yes, it is. A lot of money. Yes, it is. You see? So with all that we see today.
Over what period of time?
He gambled the money. The money got lost. Killed him. I mean.
Was it same day? Maybe not. It's not clear.
It's
But
not
that's
clear.
a lot of money.
It wasn't clear whether he just came from the casino or
And
was
he
it
had just
last
lost 15
week. We don't
million.
know, but of course, several different things are
It's a sad tale, it's an
possible. It was a
unfortunate
very
story. It's-
unfortunate story, but we see these things happening. There's a loss of fund. There's not inability to create this fund, or what you were expecting, like CT said, does not come through. So you're disappointed, and the only way out is to end this life, because you don't see a possibility of then being able to get it right. Now, what is causing this situation? What is causing these things to be? We just had the senator here talking about the fact that you're not able to use 100% of what you earn. You're not even able to use 50% of what you earn, because of the fact that a higher power has borrowed on your behalf, essentially rendering things that would normally be affordable to you
Things are
3,
expensive.
4, 5 times as expensive as they normally should be.
Yeah.
So you see there are other forces that are playing, and it trickles down. For us to then see how that trickles down and how it affects us then is extremely important, and then to see how it affects people on an individual basis.
And I think also let's look at why the society now is feeling this pressure. I'm sure, and I was telling you earlier, City, I don't think this is a poorest society that we've had, or community that society that we've had in the country. We've had people of various, era who have been poorer than us, who've been doing much worse than we are. Were they in this kind of status that we are finding ourselves in? What are these things that are adding to the pressure of the economic situation, of our lifestyle, of feeling that we need to have money or we need to be doing a bit better than the others? Let's discuss that when you come back. Take a look at traffic first at 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. CT Muga is raising the issue of our mental health based on our economic status as a country, and how we as a society are actually handling that. It has led to a position where we have seen rising cases of clear instances of unstable mental health. Good morning. Let's take a look at traffic.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, so we have an accident on the Utawala, on the bypass just around Utawala, and we've had a lorry that has reversed and knocked a smaller vehicle, and so that is affecting traffic around that area. There's a build-up, so please approach the area with caution. Be very careful when coming up, and if you see traffic in and outbound, it's because of that particular incident. Interestingly today, not much of a problem around most of the roads that we normally see issues today. Everything seems to be happening along quite well. Let's see what it looks like later on in the day, but for now, good to let you know that if you're going somewhere, you can get there in good time today, because the traffic is not there. Spice FM KE, send us a tweet or give us a call, 0719 012 600.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You asked a question. Ask yourself a very simple. Let me ask you to ask yourself a simple question. When a country like this one, say, for instance, gets what we call the independence, you then have a traditional setting that people are coming from. Then we enter in this new era where people now want to become urbanites. But prior to that, urbanization was for a few. And with time, and then with the information age that we now have, you have people are aware of a lot more than they previously were. Yeah. Now, this is where the issue of anxiety begins, because there's the concept of comparison. You now begin to compare. And you will not be content with what you have, because you are now aware that there are the other things you didn't know about. And so there's the aspiration for these things, which in and of itself is a good thing. But when you find that these aspirations are based on certain things that you believe you can achieve, say, for instance, attaining a degree or attaining a diploma or attaining some higher education, and you attain this, and what you feel was promised is not attainable, then a new set of emotions set in, anxiety. Because then you have to figure out, I can't get what I thought I would get, then what do I do? There's the coping mechanism that what I refer to as hope now brings into play. So you figure, okay, what alternatives do I have? Some of these things that people have to actually be taught, that you need to think beyond this. You need to you actually got to prime them, because unfortunately the priming with our education system has been you get an education for a job, not that you get educated so that you can think about how to ensure you earn a living. That has not been our emphasis. That's number one. Then there's societal pressure from the parents, because they contribute to this education. And they contribute with certain expectations. So if the expectation of the job isn't attained, pressures from two fronts. No job, resources have been spent, parental expectations.
There's no ROI.
Yeah, now it just piles. Now, if you throw that into a modern situation like ours, where our current government is taxing the living daylights out of its citizens, and then you throw in a situation where people are constantly losing jobs because they are being let go of, because we are being told economic conditions. You throw in debts that are owed by county governments and governments to people they do business with. Let that list go on. And then you throw in today like the NHIF. Okay? Then you suddenly have a situation where somebody looks and asks, how on earth am I supposed to?
So the pressure becomes too much.
It's a lot of pressure. Now, somebody in the rural areas whose basic work is farming would have that sort of pressure if they have, say they are dairy farmers and they don't know where to take their milk.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a place
You've
to take
invested a lot in the production of this.
But you don't know where to take it, and you can't drink all of it. And you can't give your neighbor, because your neighbor also has milk, okay?
And your dogs don't take milk?
No, your dogs don't particularly like milk, okay? Now, you suddenly find, and if you can't sell your milk, you can't earn a living.
Yep.
So everything that goes with earning a living, like taking your children to school, having a better life, stops. You can't see beyond that. Now, this is a story that I'm saying because it replicates across the country. You owned a lorry. You owned lorries. You transported goods. Suddenly, the law changes and you suddenly find yourself in a situation where you have lorries and you have to rethink how to organize this business.
Yeah.
Businesses that relied on these transporters and these lorries suddenly come to a halt. Not that they actually come to a halt. Every other person who was employed in this industry also suddenly starts experiencing. So you have a situation where almost an entire country is under pressure because of all these things. They're socio-economic. The economic plays on the social, and this now plays on the mind.
That's where the issues come in.
Now it comes in and it's real.
And I'm taking it back to this point where, because yes, the government is making attempts at addressing this.
The government tends to talk a lot about the things they
creating
intend
the
to
task
do.
force to
Let's
look
ask,
at the
what
mental
have they
health.
done?
No, they were inaugurated in December, and they have
Task force.
The task force. They were inaugurated in December, towards the end of December. They had Dr. Frank Njenga and his team.
Are you aware that word actually causes stress?
Task force, right?
Yes.
I know.
Some pressure to see.
There's where I'm heading with this. So the task force is working, and then it presents its report, and it takes the report is taken to the Minister for Health, takes it to the cabinet, and they discuss it. I am looking at it they will be discussing it from the point of, yes, we have increased cases of mental health illness in the country, but they are not looking at what is causing these things. So maybe the task force should have had more people in it, should have had people like psychologists and others and economists and be more broad-based.
The gentleman who sits at the head of this task force is a psychiatrist.
He's a psychiatrist,
yeah,
because he's looking at, he's got to identify what is mental health, and that's a TOR. Maybe the person who advised the president to form a task force on mental health is the one who was wrong. Should have said, let's look at the status of our people in general.
I actually don't think Dr. Njenga is an eminent psychiatrist.
He is.
Yes.
And I think the formation of the that isn't really even an issue. It isn't an issue because what we do know of these task forces and committees, what we do know is that they actually tend to actually understand and come up with papers that document these issues that we're talking about.
Yes.
The problem isn't that. Thereafter, there is no thereafter.
No, I'm looking at the kind of information that is taken to the cabinet from this task force is going to be looking at the issues pertaining directly to the people who present themselves with mental health issues. So the report will be saying that we have an increase, yes, of cases of mental health. These are the areas that we are seeing mental health issues coming out of, but they're not saying why. Because if you're saying it's a team of psychiatrists, are they going to be able to tell us what we're discussing, for example?
No.
Why is it? Is it because of economic hardship?
Many of them will actually understand it, because if you're talking about a doctor, when you exhibit certain symptoms, they'll talk to you about it. They'll ask you if you're feeling this, why. They talk to you. So they actually understand. They do understand. But what you're right in that is that other experts who understand other aspects of lives that contribute to this could have been brought in. I don't know whether they were considered, but I also know that people who choose these task forces are not stupid. So they will know that they probably need to include other people who would contribute to that particular conversation. That I know. Again, that is not even the issue, Eric. The Mheshimiwa Ledama Olekina mentioned very clearly, he talked about the Ndungu Commission. I could go to the other commissions, which have done excellent jobs, given good reports, and even them we haven't even implemented some of it. Now, that seems to be our history. Do a good job of getting the data, and then do a good job of sitting on the data.
Of keeping it and just looking at this pretty data. Not
Therein is a problem. But this one is of particular concern, because you really do not want a situation where there is a rising number of people in your society or community who are not healthy mentally. It's not good for you. It's not good for the country, because one, they may even come to work. If your mind is unhealthy, you will not be performing at par.
Well, absolutely. You will not be productive, and that's the thing. It will be the first thing that should be looked at. And I do agree with you, Eric, that it's the mental health that we see is symptomatic of other things, that something else is somewhere else is fundamentally wrong. And to say that those are the things that need to be dealt with across the board, that needs to be addressed and dealt with across the board.
Creating more hospitals and increasing the capacity, bringing more doctors, maybe Cuban doctors who are psychiatrists, may not really address our issues. So we are dealing with, yes, the president is going to receive a report. Yes, the Ministry of Health is going to be given more money. Let's create more, mental health facilities in every county. But you're basically saying, I have made it easier for you to come here, but I've not made it easier to avoid you coming here. We are not dealing with the issues themselves. Like CT keeps telling us, it's about preventive. If we are not preventing these rising cases, if we are not preventing the reasons that are causing people to go to seek these services, what are we doing?
Nothing, actually. Because
like you say, it's not wrong. Everybody can tell you, why do we have pressure? Why do I feel pressured? I feel pressured because I'm looking at my bills and my responsibilities.
Right.
And the lifestyle that I'd like to live. Because I also have exposure. I'm exposed to, this is a good life. I look at people who are living that life and I'm feeling, I want to live like this. Now, there are very many people who also don't have that awareness of what does it take to live this kind of life. Go into debt. We talk about the number of people who have debts who have been flagged by CRB, who are borrowing just, those small figures, 100 bob to 5,000 bob. Why are they borrowing that?
It's not even, they're not even frittling away the money. This is for survival.
Yeah, it's to survive. We're talking about...
I needed this to buy Sukuma Wiki.
I needed this to do this, and it's available to me. And I've gone to them, Django. If I'm not paid, I'm not able to pay back that 200 bob that I borrowed. And then they take you to CRB. Okay. Now, think about it. Pressure being piled upon pressure. If you're talking about a tinder keg, this is actually it. Why do you think it is that someone like Miguna has a population he appeals to? That appeal and the rhetoric that comes out of such an individual seems to address that strength, the vehemence with which he speaks, addresses the intensity of anxiety that some of these people
are feeling.
And they feel this can only be addressed when this amount of pressure is actually poured into our problem. So when someone talks tough, they feel, yes, it's being addressed. Because the problems they feel are tough. The problems they feel engage their mind, engage their lives, and half the time they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Zero. They don't know. Have you ever seen how people cross roads in this country?
With wanton abandon.
You actually get the impression this person is not aware they're even crossing the road. Now, so you ask, what on earth must be going through this
There are
person's mind?
instances when actually I've had somebody crossing the road and you look at them and you can see they are not here.
They're not there.
They are zonked out.
They didn't even realize that
zoned
you maybe would
You
have
hooted
would
them
have,
and they
would
look
have
at you
hit them.
surprised. They're like, oh my God,
sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I was not here at all. You
What
know?
are you saying? I've had people walking into my car, walk in. Luckily, I was stationary. And then they're shocked that they walked into the car and they look at you. Now, if it happened once, I'd say, okay.
Even fender benders on the highway. I mean, you just find
People are absent. People are absent in mind, and so of course and people are thinking, and of course the burden is quite heavy. And then to say that what really will be done about it, but then by virtue of the fact that 3 in a room and 2 have said this is what I have experienced, then this task force, as it were, or those who are going to go into the business of figuring out what is wrong, will not have a problem when it comes to examples then, and people then giving the reasons as to why they went through a particular period of anxiety or stress or pressure. And from that, then you can glean so much that will they be able to point to the solution. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is looking towards a solution. Interestingly enough, in other countries where you find that people have then problems with mental health, the reasons have actually been found out, and they're saying that then it's not economic issues. CT gave an example a few weeks ago, Sweden or Norway, who actually have serious problems with depression, serious problems with mental health, but it actually does not point into any economic elements at all. Now points towards other things that, looking towards self-actualization, and they've not been able to reach there. Meaning the fundamentals, the basics have been taken care of. Now, it is that basic and fundamental that we're talking about here in Kenya that for a lot of people has not been taken care of. And that leads to the pressure and anxieties that we see that now causes some of the life-taking that we see as well.
Countries like the UK have come up with the happiness ministry. Remember, even the BBI has recommended the formation of a department or something that deals with this kind of thing, making people feel alive.
Actually,
happy to be alive.
In addition to that, it's been reported that some of the institutions of higher learning in renowned places like the US, courses that have to do with happiness get some of the highest attendances. Now, happiness is actually a consequence. You must understand. You don't start with that. There's something has to happen for you to be happy. Yes. Now, this something, if it doesn't happen, causes the opposite as well. So you must address this. Happiness actually is a symptom of well-being.
Oh yes, ours actually being called a well-being, right? A well-being department.
Yes.
That's what we're discussing this morning, the mental health status of our country versus the economic status of our country, and what's leading us to where we are. It's 12 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Definitely looking at into mental health issues this morning, and also I think even further the capacity of the country then to be able to say these are the issues that we have and this is how we want to deal with it, because you want to have a healthy nation over which you will then govern and rule, right? You would want to have health. I'm not asking, I'm saying you want to have individuals who make up then a community, make up society, who are healthy in mind, because it comes along with it. And interestingly enough, just looking at a study that was shown to say that a lot of the physical diseases or physical manifestations of ill health that we see actually have a link to some kind of mental health. There's a depression at some point on a mental level that then leads to physical physical problems.
Expression of.
There you go. So, I mean, it seems to be the overriding factor in all of this. And that actually should be paid really close attention to.
Can I take one call?
Take two.
This is Derito Ashira calling from Zimmerman. Good morning, Derito.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, I think what you're discussing today is very, very important. I have a sister who has bipolar condition. And I can tell you that after moving around all the hospitals all around Kenya, the one place that we found very, very important for us was Madari Referral Hospital.
Yep.
But my concern is that the government is not investing so much in this hospital. Yeah. This is a very good hospital. In fact, I'll be seeing her on Tuesday. She will be attending her clinic. But I think the government is not investing much. In 2018, the government invested 40 million, just 40 million in Madari.
In the referral hospital.
Yeah, in a referral hospital, 40 million. Just 40 million.
Yeah. It raises the issue, like you're saying, Wachira, that it's about how does the government take these issues seriously? It's about
these issues, and the way you have been discussing everything. I had your conversation earlier that it is as if everything has a mental health issue, because I had you talking about even someone getting into a car, or like someone so unconscious.
Yep.
You see, there are so many mental health problems around.
It's true. Thank you very much, Director, for your call.
Not investing much in this.
Yeah, we hope that now, of course, the government takes this seriously. Of course, we've already seen that there are signs that the government is going to take this seriously. The president himself ordered the formation of a task force to address this, and the task force has already been formed, and it's, of course, working. It shall present its report. What we are hoping is that this report does not just go and join the others on the shelf and sit there, but it looks at not just the issue of addressing the current mental health cases, but also looking at how to prevent such mental health cases and the root causes of this. Just like the ESCC chair or CEO was saying, corruption is not the issue. There are other issues actually that make corruption thrive in the country. Like he was calling it the political corruption. He's saying all of us are participating
in this.
We champion people who are involved in corruption, and then we say, we have grand corruption.
Actually, mental health plays out in a certain sector that people don't seem to understand. It's with our political and national leadership. When somebody lies to you, and this is what many politicians do and people in leadership, and they lie openly, if they do this continuously, it's often called pathological lying. It's actually a mental disorder. Now, it may sound humorous, but it is, because when somebody wants to falsify entirely, and this is disproportionate to any end in view, you wonder, why are you telling the lie when the truth is available and you could just say, sorry, we can't do this, or we promise this and we can't do. And yet it isn't done, and then somebody wants to tell you it is done. The emperor's suit.
Right.
The emperor is stark naked, and you want to insist
that he's wearing clothes.
Yes. Now, think about the things that we try to sort out in this country by words. If the words were followed by proportionate action that actually brought about the desired end, it would be good.
It would be fine.
But ours, it ends with the word. So it means the words are a lie, because you do not see any end result that is positive. Now, that disease, that mental disorder among our leaders is something that must be corrected, because it's what contributes to all these socioeconomic situations we're talking about. These are people who seem determined to lie at any cost. And with a lie, you salvage one lie, so they think, with yet another lie. They think it's words, but it's lies. You ask, are people dying in Turkana because of a drought? No. And the people in Turkana are saying, excuse me.
We are dying. We're dying. Next door. Exactly.
Now, everything to the recent situation about locusts. Think about it. We've discussed it in this particular forum. We don't seem to understand that when we are talking about a task force or a policy that the government has had, the policy should actually address the leaders first, because they contribute to this state more than anybody else, and they contribute because they themselves are in that state. Many of them require mental assistance because they're not healthy mentally. If you take an oath of office to actually support people and to ensure that their livelihood is maintained, and your actions amount to you disproportionately ensuring that the very thing you're supposed to do, you never do. You misappropriate funds meant for them. You keep ensuring that a situation that will damn them in terms of placing unnecessary financial burden on them is continued with every move. Surely, are these people in the right state of mind?
There's no way they would be.
Yes.
And now because of that, you've played so much on their psyche that by the time you hear words like task force and appointment and then report,
you get a headache.
You get a headache. You even get more stressed because you historically, from what you are used to and what your experience has taught as a nation, not just as individuals, you're only going to assume that all right, that people have been put together to try and look at this thing, which is clearly becoming a national issue, and they're just going to fuzzy around it for some time. Somebody's going to write things on a piece of paper, and then it will go to the shelf and will blow the dust off in another 5 years. Unfortunately, that's what people are going to think.
Remember, we asked this question about the church leadership and how it is they seem to have taken a back seat when it comes to the fight against the ills of society. Again, how is it that, these are voluntary situations. You're not asked to be a man or a woman of the cloth. You feel a calling. Essentially, it's voluntary.
Right. And then you offer up yourself.
And then you do the complete opposite. It's something has to be wrong. Something somewhere has gone completely wrong. Now, if we've talked about the blind leading the blind. Those who are ill are now leading those who are ill. And also imbuing people who are otherwise well with the illness that they themselves have begun. It isn't a good condition and it isn't a good place to be in.
The mental health situation in the country is serious. And the way we are saying, you've got to go back all the way to the beginning and understand exactly why are we here. What would you like to see, for example, this week's city, you're talking about RRIs. It's a rapid result. You want to see change. You'd like to see change. In what form or shape would you like to see
First
change?
of all, when the government or the representatives of the government or politicians talk about something, let us see the end of what they have said and let's see the positive aspects of it. But trying to tell us, for instance, that this thing that we're proposing exactly will help you. How? How exactly are more taxes going to help the ordinary Mwananchi? How? It's not. It's adding to the anxiety pool, and all it's doing is it'll bring about those undesired states that I was talking about of depression, etc., etc.
Yeah.
When school-going children who are otherwise normally happy teenagers with a normal teenage problem start committing suicide, something is very wrong. When someone kills his wife and his children, something is very wrong.
Very wrong.
When a woman goes around stabbing her own children, something is very wrong.
Indeed. Let's come to the end of the show for the week. Your closing remarks, Ndu?
Well, it's been an eye-opening week for sure. There's a lot that has been happening, and probably again we'll probably see some more happening over the weekend. But I guess really important for us, for eyes and ears to be peeled and questions to be asked, and to be extremely critical, looking at things with a critical eye, and that's what I would say. Important.
Good. CT.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, folks.
Have a good weekend. See you on